This is quite literally the only video on email and SMS marketing that you will ever need to watch. I say that because I've been able to help brands like this one, an ecom company that sells beauty products, go from 30K in MRR to 400K in MRR in 3 months. And brands like this one right here go from barely making more than 5K MRR to consistently generating over 30K MRR every month in 2 months, just with email and SMS marketing. And just for this video, I've condensed everything that I've learned in getting those results for those brands. Things like how to set up your pop-up form and what to offer on that pop-up form, the highest earning campaigns that you can send, the flows you need to set up to generate completely automated revenue, all of the segmentation tips and tricks to get the highest deliverability and revenue, how to use SMS marketing for as little cost but as high of revenue as possible, and much more. Also, that by the end of this video, just using what I'm going to show you here, you can do the exact same for your own brand and generate thousands more in revenue every month from retention marketing. All right, so first up, let's get into pop-up forms and specifically why pop-up forms are so important for you to have on your website. So pop-up forms are a lead generation machine for your brand. If you think they're annoying, you need to change your mind for the sake of your business. It really is that important. If you're watching this, you're likely spending money on ads to get people to your website. If that's the case, you need a high converting pop-up form to turn these website visitors into email and SMS subscribers. So let's quickly look at the cost to get a lead back to your brand's website. And this basically applies to any brand that's watching this. So if you're getting people back to your site via Meta, the simple math is it costs around $10 to get someone to click on an ad when you are retargeting them. So it might cost $1, $2, $3 to get them to the site the first time. And if you want to get them back to the site, it's going to cost you around $10 to get them to click again. Now, if we look at email on the other hand, currently, if you're using Klaviyo or almost any other email provider out there, it costs around 1 penny to send an email, 1 cent. Even if we assume that someone is going to click on 1 out of every 50 emails that you're sending them, let's say, that becomes 95% cheaper to get that click back to your website compared to Meta retargeting ads. So it's extremely efficient as a channel to retarget those site visitors and get that first conversion. Now let's talk about the 3 main reasons why you need a pop-up form in place, aside from it being extremely cost efficient and way cheaper than retargeting ads. So first up, you need to be building an owned list. You simply cannot rely on Meta, TikTok, or other platforms to build your audience, as these platforms can disappear or disable your ad account at will, and all of your ability to advertise and your followers can disappear in a blink. Absolutely no one on earth can take your email or SMS list away from you. That's the simple truth of the matter. And just like a simple anecdote from my life and my past, I used to work as a e-commerce director for a luxury fashion brand. And essentially I owned the P&L for the department. And one day Facebook decided to ban our ad account. And our entire e-commerce strategy, you can call it, was based on Facebook ads and more specifically retargeting on Facebook. So we literally lost our ability to drive revenue overnight, forced me to kind of start looking at retention channels and got me into this rabbit hole that I'm still in today. But really, it is so important to just have that list you can fall back on so that your ability to generate revenue just cannot disappear. So the second reason you need a pop-up form is because email is not dying. Now, people have been saying that email has been dying for over a decade, probably 20 years at this point. But in 2025, the number of email users is projected to be nearly 4.5 billion people in the world. So really, what is that, half the world's population today, with 95% of email users checking their email every single day. So at the end of the day, people can say what they want, but email is not dying and you should continue to use email marketing and collect email addresses. Now, the third reason here is the power of SMS marketing. So you want a pop-up form in place that you can collect email addresses and phone numbers. You want to be collecting phone numbers because in 2025, brands are still catching up to the power of SMS marketing, with most of them either not using it at all or underutilizing it. So what this means is that your customers still receive a relatively low number of messages from your competitors, and you still have a chance to stand out really clearly in their text messages, which nearly have a 100% open rate. So you can't actually measure open rates when it comes to SMS, but when was the last time you got a text that you didn't see at the very least? So that's why we basically say there's 100% open rates. So that's why you absolutely want to have a pop-up form in place. You want to build that list. You want to continue collecting emails, and you absolutely want to start collecting phone numbers if you're not already. Now let's talk about creating a high converting pop-up form. So right here in this pyramid are the highest leverage elements that that influence opt-in rates. So these are the things that you have in your disposal to be able to convert someone when they see your pop-up form. And these are in order of what is going to actually make someone convert. And this is based off years of A/B testing. So the first and most important is the offer. What are you actually offering in exchange for someone's email address and phone number? The next up is the behavior, which we'll get into. Then you have the copy. And then finally, the least important is the design. So first off, when we look at the offer is what you're offering of value in exchange for someone's email address. Now in 2025, you absolutely need an offer, and I'm going to explain why. So we've tested this over the years with several brands, and while you are giving away margin on that first purchase, the net revenue that you're going to be able to generate from the first orders alone is going to be way greater when you have an offer present versus if you don't. And I'm just going to show you some data from real A/B tests that we have run with several brands to just prove exactly why you need to have an offer in your pop-up form. So imagine your brand gets 10,000 website visitors and has an AOV of $100. Let's look at two examples here. In example A, we have our pop-up form with no offer. And in example B, we have a pop-up form with a 10% off offer. So in pop-up form A, which has no offer, it's going to convert 5% of viewers into subscribers. And this is the data that's taken from our real A/B test, these percentages. So you're going to convert, in our example, with our 10,000 website visitors, 5% of those viewers into subscribers, which would be 500 new subscribers with this data. Now, based on our A/B testing, real data, 3% of these 500 subscribers are going to buy at full price of $100 because we're not giving them any discount. So it's the full AOV of $100, which would generate 15 sales and $1,500 in revenue based on the conversion rate and the AOV. Now, in pop-up form B, when we look at the pop-up form that has the 10% off offer, it's going to convert around 12% of viewers into subscribers compared to 5% when you don't have an offer, which would be 1,200 new subscribers. So right away, by having an offer in place, you're going to collect 700 more subscribers. Now, subscribers are great, but what we really care about is making money. So when we look at the conversion rates, again, real data from our A/B tests, we were able to convert 6% of people who signed up via the pop-up form versus the 3% in the pop-up form without the offer. And that would result with our sample data in 1,200 subscribers that buy at a discounted AOV of $90. So everyone's getting a 10% off discount at an AOV of 100. We're going to say that the average purchase from these purchasers was $90, and that would generate 72 sales and $6,480 in revenue. So people's first thought is, I don't want to give up margin. But when we look at the actual net revenue that we're able to generate after taking the lost margin into consideration, we're generating over $4,500 more in net revenue. And ultimately, that's what we care about. So this is simply to illustrate how much of an impact having an offer will make on your net revenue. I welcome you to A/B test this for yourself, but you shouldn't just sneeze at it and say, we're not discounting at all. So the math from this example is crystal clear and does not account for any subsequent purchases that occur because you converted a first-time purchaser or conversions that are going to come from campaigns because you acquired an email subscriber that you otherwise would not have. So where this data gets really interesting is this is only the data that we have within Klaviyo's attribution window and within the welcome series specifically. So essentially what we're saying here is if you collected 700 more subscribers, this doesn't account for the 700 subscribers that could be converted from a campaign down the road, let's say. And the other thing it doesn't consider is because you converted 72 purchasers versus 15, that's now over 55 more purchasers that are going to be in your new segment of people that can repurchase versus the 15. So this math doesn't account for any other conversions that are going to come from this cohort. Now let's look at the highest leverage A/B test that you should be running on your pop-up form. So there's simply no one-size-fits-all approach to setting up the optimal pop-up form for your brand. The truth is every customer demo is different and your customer demo might react differently to offer or copy or design than another brand's. So that's why we really encourage testing for every brand. Now, the highest leverage test you should run, this is broken up based on our 4 elements that we have at our disposal to actually convert a site visitor into an email subscriber or SMS subscriber. So first off, when we look at the offers, what we suggest you test is percentage off versus a dollar off, which can be equal to your percentage off at your AOV. So let's say your AOV is $100, your percentage off that you want to start with is 10%. You can test 10% versus $10. This dollar off can actually work better with brands that have a much higher AOV just because the higher number theory applies here. So you can think of it here as a brand with $1,000 AOV would be giving up $100 for a 10% off discount, and advertising $100 off your first purchase versus 10% off your first purchase can definitely cause an uptick in conversion. The next thing you might want to test is free shipping if it makes sense and is really valuable for your demo. The other thing you can test is cash back using an app like Fondue, which was acquired by Postscript. And then you can also offer a free gift with purchase. This works really well to convert site traffic into subscribers as well. Now, looking at behavior, our second highest leverage element here. So what you're going to want to test is a micro yes step, which we'll look into a little more in a second. And I'll give you a visual example of this. Zero party data collection. So this is where you're going to ask a question in your pop-up form, like what is your pain point basically? And then customers will have to tell you what their pain point is so that you can actually market to them better. The other thing we would want to test is the pop-up form loading time. So typically we actually see immediate load pop-ups perform better. People think they're annoying, but you'd want to test that against something like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, just to see what your demo really reacts to. You want to test the pages that the pop-up form is going to trigger on. So is it going to trigger on all pages? Is it only going to trigger on your home page? We typically advise it triggering on all pages aside from cart, for example, but you might see that you have a high bounce rate on your product pages when there's a pop-up form in place. So that's definitely something that should be tested. And then testing a pop-up form on exit intent as well to see if that helps with conversion. Now, copy. So the way we look at copy and design, which we'll talk about a little more later in this video, is that the offer and behavior of your pop-up form is really what you're communicating. And then the copy and design is the how you're communicating it. So they matter less, but the high impact test that you can run on copy is very short copy versus very long copy, for example, or not very long copy, but just longer copy that kind of explains your offer more. So you can think of that as like 10% off, put your email address in, or like 10% off, sign up and be the first to know about new arrivals and our new blog posts and everything else. The next thing is communicating what the offer is versus communicating a mystery offer. So this is something that we've actually seen a lot of success with recently when we're trying to boost opt-in rates that are having a hard time getting that lift. So technically this doesn't change the offer on the back end. If you have a % off or $1 off or free shipping, that's what the offer is always going to be for everyone. But just phrasing it with your copy as a mystery offer versus straight up saying it's a percentage off can definitely help you increase your conversion rate. And finally, when it comes to design, the highest leverage A/B tests here are going to be having an image in your pop-up form versus no image. What types of images are used? So are you showing a really high quality product photo? Are you showing a lifestyle image that shows the product in use? These are the type of things that make a huge difference. And then finally, the text sizes. So simply making the text bigger, like let's say you have an older customer demo, this is actually something that can make a big difference. So really, if there's one thing you're taking away from this entire video, don't just go with your gut here. You always want to test because these tests are what are going to potentially help you increase your conversion rate on your pop-up form from, let's say, 5% to 10%, and collecting an extra 5 emails from every 100 site visitors you're driving from your paid ads really compounds quickly. And at the end of the year, you're going to be really happy that you did this. So next up, let's look at the top performing form structure that we recommend right off the bat to start with based on hundreds of A/B tests that we've run at my agency, Dispatch. So at Dispatch, these are our performance benchmarks when we're starting with new clients to understand if their pop-up forms are converting well and how our new pop-up forms are converting for them. So typically a poor conversion rate is anywhere between 0 and 5%. An average conversion rate is between 5 and 7%. A good conversion rate would be 7 to 9%. And then a great conversion rate would be over 9%. Now, if you log into Klaviyo, what you're going to notice if you are in one of these lower ranges is I believe Klaviyo says that if you're over 3%, they put like a tag there that says excellent next to your conversion rate. This simply isn't true. It might be excellent compared to the average brand on Klaviyo, but if you are really trying to optimize and you are just trying to lift your conversion rate, it's not that hard. So really putting in the basics here and running consistent tests is going to put you way above the average or median brands on Klaviyo. So don't listen to them when they say that 3% is excellent. You should be aiming for over 10% realistically. So with that said, let's get into our top performing structure here. Like I said, there's no one size fits all. This is going to look different for every brand, but after hundreds of A/B tests, this is what we have found to just be a great foundation. If you're at 2%, if you implement all of this, you're probably going to get to 5% right away. So essentially it applies a psychological principle that states that when you ask someone a really simple question to say yes to, before you ask them for what you want in return, you kind of get this micro commitment that they've made where they've already said, yes, I want this. And then they're much more likely to give you what you want in exchange. So how this works in the context of our pop-up forms is on the first step of the pop-up, what you're going to do is you're not going to ask for their email. You're just going to tell them or ask them. In this case, Honey, the brand, is telling subscribers you've got 20% off, and they simply have two options to either claim the offer, in which they're saying, yes, I want this offer, or they're saying, no, I don't want it. And once they click claim 20% off, the next thing they're going to see on step number 2 is the email collection step. So here, what you want to do is you want to clearly present your offer. You want to do this on the first step as well. So what you don't want to do is say like, welcome to Honey, and then say like, do you want 20% off in the body copy? You always want to have the header feature the offer. That's going to grab people's attention. So essentially, once we get to step 2, like we're seeing here, you want to clearly present the offer. And then in the copy, you simply just want to keep it short and highlight what they're getting. So like, get 10% off your first order, plus great tips and recipes in your inbox, for example. Honey does a great job here. They say, plus join our VIP list to get exclusive offers and product releases. So like I said, once someone has already hit claim 20% off, they're much more likely to put their email address in once you're asking for what you want in return. Now, step 3 is going to be our SMS collection. You have two options here. This really depends on how badly you want to grow your SMS list. And also, this is something you can A/B test to figure out if it really is going to be incremental for you. But what you want to decide is, do you want to give an additional incentive for signing up to SMS? So your options here are either doing what Honey does, which is they don't have a additional incentive. So once you get to step 3, their SMS step, they're just saying complete your sign up. So what's going to happen here is even if someone gives Honey their email address and then gets to the step and X's out, they're still going to be put onto Honey's welcome list and start getting their welcome series, and they just won't be signed up to SMS. But Honey kind of phrases it as like, you need to finish signing up in order to get your 20% off. And this just encourages people to sign up for SMS as well. But there's no additional incentive. So this is where you will probably see a higher sign up rate if you do have an additional incentive, which would say something like get an extra 5% for signing up to SMS. And then in your email welcome series, you're going to have the code for 20% off. And in your SMS welcome series, you're going to have the code for 25% off essentially. But the button action when someone clicks continue here is going to be to put someone into your main list, which I'll get to in a second. And then same thing when someone clicks activate 20% off on the SMS step, you're going to want to just put that subscriber's phone number into your brand's main SMS list. Now on the 4th page, we suggest letting subscribers know that their code is on their way to their inbox, because this improves deliverability by encouraging them to open the first email that they're receiving from your brand. And it lets Gmail, Yahoo, the other inbox providers know that this is a sender that this recipient wants to receive emails from. So we're not going to put them in spam or maybe promotions when they send their next emails. And the last thing we want to do here is just set up a teaser. So this is called a teaser in Klaviyo. And essentially, if someone does X out of the pop-up form, there will still be this teaser in place in order to open the pop-up form back up once they're ready to subscribe. So if you implement this 4-step framework, I promise you that your conversion rate is going to be much higher than if you just use Klaviyo's default option. But again, don't forget to test. So now let's look at general guidelines for peak performance. And I actually want to head over to Klaviyo for this. We're in our test account right now, and I want to just talk about a few of the key settings that most people kind of ignore, but make a huge difference in the performance of your pop-up form. So what we're going to look at here is, let's just say we're creating a new form. You can create this one, for example. I'll just choose my main newsletter list over here. Number 1, we want this to be a pop-up form. So in terms of form type, we see pop-up forms perform better than full page, flyout, embed, or banners. So that's the first thing that I want to call out here. The second thing that's super important is when we look at the behavior settings, we're going to go into our behavior settings over here. So you're going to click on targeting and behavior. And then in display, we have our timing, we have our frequency, we have devices. I'll actually just take a second and go through these because they are important. So like I said, you'll want to A/B test your timing, but you can start with immediately because that's usually where we see best conversion. Frequency, you can keep this as 5 days. You can keep it at 2 days, 3 days. You don't want it less than 2 to 3 days just because if someone closed it, you don't want to interrupt their user experience when they're coming back to the site the next time. Devices, so you're going to be able to see in your data how your form is performing on desktop and mobile. To start out, you can start with a desktop and mobile form. So a form that basically just looks good on desktop and mobile. The most important thing is that the text size is big enough on mobile. You should be be optimizing for mobile because it's very likely where most of your traffic is going to come from, but it should look good on both platforms. That's the main point. Once you have some data coming in your analytics, you'll be able to see how the pop-up form is converting on desktop and on mobile. And if you do see that there is a gap, you'll want to create separate pop-up forms on desktop and mobile and just optimize each for that device type. But you can keep this as both desktop and mobile for the initial setup. Now, here's what I want to talk about. When you go to your brand's website, what's very likely is when someone gets to the site from an ad or from your Instagram, let's say, what's going to happen is if these buttons are checked, when they get to the site and they're simply just shopping around, starting to click on different product pages, as soon as your pop-up form comes up, if they just click on shop bestsellers, let's say, the pop-up form is going to close automatically. If you don't have a teaser in place, they're not going to see the offer again. And it's just a bad user experience if you want your site traffic to see this valuable offer that you have in place. So what you want to do is click off, untoggle these checkboxes. And what that's going to do is it's going to force your website traffic to click on this X. Now that may seem annoying, but it's super easy and intuitive. And all it does is it just gets the people that would have otherwise not seen your pop-up form because they clicked outside of it accidentally to see it. So this will really enhance your ability to convert that traffic. Now, we talked about load timing. In terms of design, we usually see designs with no images performing better. When I say no images, I don't really mean an image like this. I more so mean on desktop. What we saw back here before we created this is, especially on desktop and even something like this on mobile, when there's an image in place, let's just take this as an example, it can be really distracting to the offer. So if you have a great offer, like a free gift, let's say, by not having that offer be the focus of the pop-up, you're going to lose out on subscribers, is what we have typically seen when it comes to our tests. Device optimization, just touched on this, and then target audiences. So if we go back to our form over here, go back into targeting and behavior and click on targeting, you can keep don't show to existing profiles on. There's no reason why your main pop-up form should be shown to people who have already subscribed to your list. You can remove this off of cart, let's say. So just type in /cart, just because if someone is already at the cart step, they likely don't need this additional 10% off offer. So you don't want to give up margin unnecessarily if you don't have to. In terms of location, this is really only valuable if you operate in different languages. It can be valuable if there are differences in your privacy policies, if there are differences in how you operate in different countries. You can have different pop-up forms for different countries, but when you're just setting up, you really don't need to worry about this too much. Here is a major pro tip. This is how you're going to want to handle major sales and site-wide promotions. Way too often, I see brands that just keep their evergreen pop-up form. So your evergreen pop-up form is your pop-up form that's just going to be live the whole year. It's like what we just talked about. But when there is a major promotion running or there's something else that you would want to communicate, that's simply a better offer than your evergreen offer of 10% off. You absolutely want to have a different pop-up form in place. Now, if the promotion is just 24 hours, let's say, it might not be worth it to create a new pop-up form. You might want to just turn off your current pop-up form. I'll explain why you'll want to do that in a second. But if your sale is lasting more than a few days, you absolutely want to create a new pop-up form that reflects the better promotional offer. You want to do this for two reasons. Number one is alignment with your other marketing channels. Let's say you're running a summer sale and it lasts a week and you're running a ton of ads for that summer sale. If your evergreen offer is 10% off and the summer sale is 20% off site-wide, let's say, you're going to have people that are coming to your website for that 20% off offer. And it doesn't make sense simply for them to see a pop-up form that's offering them 10%, which is simply just an unattractive offer compared to what they already are coming to the site for. So the two things are going to happen. Number one, your pop-up form is going to convert way, way, way fewer subscribers, because why would you sign up for 10% off if you can already get 20% off? And then secondly, it's just confusing simply. Like, it ruins your website and shopper experience when they're coming to the site for 20% off. You're telling them there's 10% off. Your conversion rate will be better if everything is aligned across your channels. The second thing is you want to avoid poor customer experience. So let's say you're running this summer sale for 20% off. Typically when brands do a site-wide sale, they don't make the discounts stackable. So you can't usually stack a 10% off welcome offer on top of that 20% off site-wide. So what happens all the time is brands keep their pop-up form on for 10% off. And then they get angry customers writing to customer support saying, I tried using my 10% off code at checkout and it's not working. What's going on? Typically it leads to frustration, which is why you at the very least want to turn your current pop-up form off. But you ideally want this new pop-up form, because what is going to happen, even in a case where this imaginary summer sale for 20% off doesn't require someone to opt in and be an email subscriber, it's available to everyone, even if they come directly from the ad and shop right away. So having pop-up form that's simply saying summer sale 20% off is going to allude to the fact that you need to sign up to claim the offer, even if you technically don't. And you will probably see much higher opt-in rates when you have this pop-up form with a higher offer in place than your evergreen offer. So that's definitely why you want to do this. Now, two important things here. The first important thing is you want to use one main list for all of your consensually opted in subscribers that are coming from your various pop-up forums and the ones that are coming from checkout. So all too often I see brands that have different lists for every opt-in source. So they'll have a list for people that came in from checkout. They'll have a list from people that came in from a pop-up forum, a list for people that came in from another pop-up forum. And it simply doesn't make sense. The reason why is because your welcome series is going to be triggered by subscribing to a list. And if you have all of these different lists, what's going to happen is someone can go through like 3 different welcome series, which doesn't make sense. It also makes analyzing the growth of your list and these subscribers that are consensually opting in a lot easier to analyze when you have it all in one list. Now, in case anyone's wondering what non-consensually opted in subscribers are, that would just be anyone who's coming in that like didn't directly opt in on your site to say they want to receive email marketing. So like, let's say you're running a giveaway and you're collecting emails from that list, or you're using a tool like retention.com, let's say, and getting subscribers, quote unquote, from there. You would want to silo those because they're simply not signing up for the same reason. And the second thing here is you want to turn off double opt-in on your main list that's being used in your pop-up form. So this is huge. So once you do have your main list, you can just call this newsletter. You can call this main email list, let's say. You're going to want to go to that list. This is really, really important. And this single-handedly causes brands to lose probably 50% of the revenue that they can be driving. So let's go to our newsletter list here. And if we go to settings and we go to consent, you're going to see this opt-in process page, and you're going to see double opt-in, which Klaviyo recommends, or single opt-in. What happens if you have double opt-in turned on, which you might have seen, what's going to happen is all of your subscribers are going to get an email first before they get your welcome email or any other email from you that says, click this button to confirm your subscription. Now, around 50% of people never click this button, and that means they never make it onto your list. They never get your welcome series. They never start getting your campaigns. And these are people who have signed up and said they want to be on your email list, but because they're not taking that additional action, because of that friction, you're never sending them emails. So you absolutely want to have single opt-in turned on. If you're wondering why Klaviyo recommends double opt-in, it's simply because it does help with deliverability and avoids getting bounces from people who are putting in like fake email addresses, let's say. But in 2025, there are other ways to protect your deliverability and keep it extremely healthy, which we will talk about in this video. All right, on to campaigns here. It is extremely important to keep a consistent cadence of campaign sends. I cannot stress this enough. Now, whether it's once, twice, or 3 times per week, your email subscribers need to receive a consistent cadence of email campaigns for 2 main reasons. Number 1, it ensures that you're staying top of mind for when they're in market for your products the next time they need to purchase. So I don't know what your brand's purchasing cycle is like. Some brands' customers come back and purchase every month because that's when they need to replenish the product. Other brands' customers come back once a year, but essentially you want to stay top of mind. Your customer is going to need a product in your category 9 times out of 10. So the likelihood is that you are in a market where a customer is going to need a product from your brand at some point in the future. And you want to be top of mind for when they do need that product. And if you're sending an email once a month or sending an email 3 times in a week and then not sending an email for 2 months, you're not ensuring that you are going to be in their inbox and top of mind when they do need to make that purchase. The second reason is you want to set expectations of how often they should expect to hear from you. So imagine if someone signs up for your list and you're sending, like I said, 3 times in 1 week, then not sending for a month. When they see that you are really sporadic, and it's not a conscious thing necessarily, but it's really simple to understand in the sense that if you don't receive an email from a brand for 2 months, you're basically going to forget about them. And then if you have a sale and you want to send 3 emails in a week, they're going to unsubscribe because this is not what they signed up for. It's not the tone that you set when they signed up. So it's not that sending 3 emails in a week is bad at all. You should be sending 2 to 3 emails in a week. It's that if you don't get your subscribers used to receiving 2 to 3 emails in a week, this is what's going to lead to a rise in unsubscribes and spam complaints. Now, how should you be deciding on the right email cadence for your brand? So there are 2 questions that you need to consistently be asking yourself. How many emails should your brand send each week? And then how many emails can your brand send each week? We'll get to the second question in a second, but let's start with how many emails your brand should send. So for brands that are doing between $1 and $10 million per year in revenue, you should be sending 2 to 4 emails per week, which is typically the sweet spot where you can balance healthy levels of engagement, deliverability, and ROI on the resources that are required to create and send these emails. So the fact of the matter is it does take resources to create emails. It either takes your time or it takes someone on your team's time, or if you're paying an agency, it takes their time. And if you are going to send additional emails, if it costs you, let's say $200 in time to create that email, your email needs to generate $200 times whatever your margin is to be able to justify at least breaking even on that additional email. So ultimately, you should let your subscribers tell you how often they want to hear from you. And if you've never asked them, that's okay, because the data in Klaviyo is going to tell you. And that data is going to be in the form of click-through rates, unsubscribe rates, and spam complaint rates that you're seeing in your dashboard. So let's say you start by sending 4 emails per week. If your unsubscribe rates are steadily increasing, you're going to want to consider reducing the cadence to not burn out your list. Now, here's one thing that's really important to consider because it ties into keeping a steady cadence. It's almost more important than how many emails you're sending. So this is question number 2, which is how many emails can your brand support sending each week with the internal bandwidth that you have available? You don't want to put yourself in a position where you're planning more campaigns than you can manage to send. So what that's going to do is it's going to lower the quality of the emails that you're sending. And we do not want to do that by any means. You want to be sending the absolute highest quality emails, and it's probably going to also lead to an inability to keep up the cadence that you planned on. All right, so if you are able to send 2 to 3 emails per week, that's amazing. Now let's talk about what you should be sending. This is where most people start getting lost and they start losing their opportunity to see the value that email marketing should be bringing to their brand. And it's really a shame because it's not that difficult, but everyone misinterprets how they should be planning a campaign calendar and what they should be sending. So each month, when you're planning out your email marketing calendar for the month ahead, you need to define what the business level goals are for your brand in the upcoming month. And then you're going to build out your calendar, your email marketing campaign calendar and SMS to support those business level goals. Most brands completely ignore this because they see email as a separate channel that lives in a silo with its own goals that are disconnected from the higher level, more important business level goals. And you'll see exactly what I mean here. So as an agency, our primary goal is to plan an email and SMS marketing calendar that drives incremental revenue for our brand partners. Simple as that. If we're not driving more revenue than before they started working with us, we're doing something wrong. Our secondary goal is to foster maximum brand engagement through the content that we're sending that aligns with what the brand's demographic deems as adding value to their lives. Now, I don't want that to sound too exaggerated, but I do want to make it clear that the content that you're sending in each email genuinely should add value to someone's day. They should either learn something, they should be entertained, they should be interested in a new product you have, but it shouldn't feel like a waste of time that they open that email. Now, depending on a brand's needs in a given month, there are some other objectives we may want to focus on based on other conversations that we have with our partners. And these are internal conversations that you may have with your brand to see what needs to be improved within an account to maximize revenue. So essentially, we want to understand what the business level goals are to then understand what we need to do in a Klaviyo account to actually help them reach those goals and add more revenue. Now, here's here's a sample from our slide deck. So we meet with our partners twice a month. One of those meetings is a strategy sync, where one of the slides in that sync is simply going over what is happening at the brand. We need to understand what is going on with the entire brand so that we can actually help you reach those brand goals. So you can see here some of the questions we ask are there any promotions planned within the next 3 months, which we haven't already been made aware of? Are there any SKUs that are being launched? Are there any SKUs that are being restocked? Are stock levels low? What is working best in other channels? So again, something that people really ignore when it comes to email. They look at email in a silo and they might find a really high performing ad that has been crushing it on Meta. And that ad might feature a specific review that speaks about a specific benefit, but they don't take that and translate it over into an email campaign next month. And there's simply no reason why you shouldn't be doing that, because your customer base that is driving conversions on Meta is the same customer base that you have on your email list. And then we basically just have a conversation about if there's anything else we should know about that will help set the tone of what the brand goals are that we can then translate into our email and SMS marketing goals. Now, if you're not sure how to kind of align your brand goals with your email and SMS marketing goals, and you're at this alone, I want to explain this in the easiest possible way that I can. And I think this is going to be genuinely super helpful for you. So there's only 3 ways to increase an online store's revenue. People talk about a million different things, but there are literally only 3 ways that you can increase your revenue. The first way is to increase your site traffic. So get more people coming to your site. The second way is to increase the conversion rate on your site. So of the number of people coming to your site, how many people are placing orders. And then the third way is to increase your average order value. How do we get the people that are buying to spend more money when they're placing an order? Now, how can we use email and SMS to tie into these goals? So the first thing that you need to do as a brand owner or operator or email marketer is you need to understand what the brand level goals are. Which of these 3 elements are you in need of increasing immediately or next month? And the answers to this are probably going to lie in your Shopify dashboard or Triple Whale or any other third-party data platform that you're using. So that's probably where you'll find the answers to these questions. Now, when you do have an answer to that question of what your upcoming goals are, here are examples of common email marketing objectives that tie into those business level goals. So let's say your goal is to increase your conversion rate. So you're getting a healthy amount of people to your site, your cost per click is right on Meta, you're happy with the site traffic you're driving, but you're simply not converting enough of that traffic with your conversion rate. So if your goal is to increase it, the way that you can do that with email and SMS campaigns is through benefit focused campaigns or us versus them campaigns. And there's 100 other angles that you can tie in here. These are really strategic ways on how you can genuinely meet your brand goals with what is going on in your Klaviyo account. So a benefit focused campaign would simply communicate the benefits of your product and why someone needs to be buying them, which inherently is going to increase the amount of awareness of the problem and why your solution is right for that customer and increase the conversion rate of those subscribers. An us versus them campaign, similar. So you've gone people onto your list, they've told you that they are interested in your offer or they've joined for another reason, maybe they're past purchasers, but you do have competition and your conversion rate might be low because people are going with the competition. So if you need to improve your conversion rate, focusing on why you are the brand that your customers should be buying from compared to your competitors, that might be where you want to focus on next month. So if your goal is to increase site traffic, the way that you can go about doing that in your Klaviyo account is focusing on increasing your open rates and focusing on increasing your click rates. If you get more people to open your emails and more people to click them, you will get more traffic to the site via email and SMS. And the other thing you can do, which can get a little dicey, we'll talk about it, is broaden up your segments potentially. So you can send to more people, although you may not want to. Now, if your goal is to increase your average order value, you can promote bundle offers, promote mix and match items, or promote collections instead of single SKUs so that you're getting someone to a landing page on the site where they're forced to look at several products, which can increase their AOV versus just one single product. Now, other goals might be generating more awareness for a specific product or collection. So if you look at your inventory levels and there's certain products or collections that aren't really moving, you might want to focus on sending product specific or collection specific campaigns that are highlighting why people should buy those products or those collections. Another goal can be converting more email subscribers into customers. So you can send campaigns tailored specifically to prospects or include dynamic content for prospects in broader campaigns. And finally, if your goal is to generate more repeat purchases from existing customers, you can do that by sending campaigns tailored to those existing one-time customers, or you can include dynamic content for customers in your broader campaigns. Now, this is something that I want to say really explicitly because it's going to help you. Generate more revenue is not a goal that will help you plan a better campaign calendar that is going to actually achieve that goal. It's way too macro, and you need to follow the above in order to determine specific and actionable goals. It takes more work, but I guarantee you this is what's going to make a difference in generating more email and SMS revenue. So there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to the question of what campaigns should my brand send. I wish there was, but there are unfortunately a ton of different types of content that you could be sending, and every brand's audience resonates with different content types, which is why analyzing the data and optimizing is extremely important. But let's start with the content types that 99% of brands should be sending. So there are a lot of other types of emails, but these types will apply to 99% of brands, so likely your brand. The first one is our product or collection spotlight emails. What these emails are going to do is they're going to highlight one product or one collection with the goal of providing focused education on that product or that collection that subscribers may not have paid attention to when visiting the website, or maybe they just need more education on those products and collections in order to convert. So there's a few examples here. We can see with Sonos, this is where they're only featuring the soundbar and they're focusing specifically on what the soundbar has in terms of product features and why you need a soundbar. Looking at Lounge, this is a collection feature. So head to toe neutrals, they're picking one angle and saying these are the neutrals that you need. And they're promoting a collection of products that all fit within this broader theme. Next up, we have our benefit focused emails. So these are emails featuring one or multiple products organized around a common theme or solution to a customer pain point. So 99% of brands are solving some product. So whether it's big or small, your brand is most likely solving a customer problem. And this is what we want to focus on here. So examples of this, Brondell highlighting over 1 billion gallons saved from their shower heads. And if that is the pain point that their customers have, they're clearly interested in protecting the environment. They're clearly interested in saving water. Brondell is choosing to focus on this pain point and sell that way. Jones Road is another example here, talking about how foundation should look like skin, which is clearly a problem that was in the market because Jones Road is crushing it, and it's featuring content in their email that is speaking to exactly how their products are going to help solve this problem, which is your foundation not looking like your skin with other brands. So moving forward, we have our content spotlight emails. These are emails that highlight educational or valuable brand content that your brand is publishing. So these are typically based off of either upcoming or past content that exists on your brand's social media accounts or a blog on your website potentially. And the call to actions here should either be to continue consuming more of the content or to shop. So as an example, to see more of the content would be like a brand featuring recipe content that they've created and saying see more recipes to drive people to that landing page, or they can say shop the ingredients that you're missing to make these recipes. And this is something that we test for our clients because different demos react very differently to these CTAs. Some of them are super interested in the content, so we'll see much higher click-through when we're promoting seeing more of that content. And then others are way more likely to just want to shop. Ultimately, we're trying to drive revenue. So that is the KPI that we're focused on in these tests. But that's a really interesting test that can yield significant results for your brand. So this ties into brands not really understanding what campaigns they should be sending and how to put a campaign calendar together. And that is, email is not just a channel to push product. So this is where a lot of brands really forget the word marketing when they're talking about their email marketing and they're strategizing their email marketing. They're really just strategizing like what emails do we send, but they're not thinking of the word marketing. So many brands think that some marketing messaging is for Instagram, some is for blog posts, and email is for something different. And the truth is, what resonates with other customers in your other channels will resonate in your email marketing. So examples like this could be you sending like the perfect recipe for Christmas dinner, which you might have published on Instagram, and you can reformat that into an email. Or simply check out our new video series on Instagram. If you know, which you likely do, that not all of your email subscribers are following you on Instagram. So all of this great content that you're posting is likely not getting seen by a large cohort of your email subscribers. So you can see here, the brand Ready Set Food does this extremely well. So they are highlighting signs that it's food allergies and then pushing to read that content for engagement. So this clicking out to their blog post. And then what you ideally want to do here is tie your product into the content in some form. So the main call to action here is go read the blog. But if you come back to the email after reading the blog, we have like this extremely tastable product tie-in where are you looking for the safest way to introduce allergens after understanding signs that it's food allergies? Now you can shop the solution to this problem that we've made you aware of. Old Pal, similar, just highlighting a bunch of published stories and doing a great job to drive people to that content. Now, moving on to education spotlight emails. So these are emails that put the spotlight on one key piece of educational content that's going to help subscribers understand why your brand will make their life better or solve their problems. Content for these can typically be inspired by the core benefits that your brand communicates on your website, as well as educational content that you publish on social. So these are similar-ish, but the focus here is purely on educating and not on the content necessarily. So CTAs here should absolutely be to go shop and not to learn more. So examples could be why we don't use sugar in our products, deep dive into the benefits of X product, why we use cotton instead of polyester in our fabrics, and just doing a deep dive on one angle that can get customers to really understand like, oh yeah, there is polyester in my sheets and I probably should want to have cotton sheets instead. So looking here, we have one example from Evan Healy that talks about their argan oil and basically just goes deep on educating on why they sell argan oil essentially and what makes their argan oil special. And then this brand Tushy is kind of taking a semi-opposite approach where instead of educating on specifically why you should buy their products, they're educating on the things that are wrong with the alternative product that you're very likely to be using, which is wet wipes in this scenario. And then they're getting you to shop their product. So these are great examples. Next up, we have our weekly newsletter. This is arguably the easiest email that you can create really consistently if you don't have the time to create other content or repurpose other content. And the reason why is because you can send a weekly newsletter from your brand that is based on curation instead of creation. Ideally, it's still done with creation where you're featuring content that you have created, but you can even curate this from other sources. So in these weekly emails, which you can just pick a day and a time, Thursday, 5 p.m., we send our newsletter every week. It allows you to consistently stay top of mind for your customers and consistently provide them with some value each week. And this can genuinely be something that your subscribers start looking forward to as content that they want to see and read in their inbox. The other thing is it can also have a similar layout every time. So that makes the creation of these emails super easy, and it can share updates about the brand. So as the founder or operator, you can kind of put in a 3-sentence blurb about what's been happening on the brand, a little behind the scenes each week as you're building. You can share topics that are going to engage your audience. So you can kind of feature like, here's what's happened in our market this week as it pertains to something that would be interesting to your subscribers. So let's say we looked at that brand Ready Set Food. It could be like, here's the new game-changing FDA announcements this week that you need to know in order to keep your baby healthy, let's say. So they're not actually going ahead and creating that content, but they're more so curating based on what their subscribers are interested in. And then other examples of this content can be recent YouTube videos that you've posted or that would be helpful to your demo, blog posts, new recipes, customer stories, even memes. I've seen some brands do extremely well. So yeah, you can highlight all of this. And then your brand might naturally fall into one of these buckets more than the others. So when we're talking about which types of campaigns you should kind of lean into heavier, if you're just starting out or if you don't understand at this point today what types of emails your customers resonate with the most, I would highly suggest you test out all of these and let the data show you which emails are actually driving conversions, which emails are driving engagement. If we're featuring certain content, is that content what's driving more engagement and conversions? And then, yeah, simply let customers tell you with their wallets what is resonating. And just looking at 2 examples of the weekly newsletter here. So we have one from Best Day Brewing, where you can see they're kind of just giving a overall highlight of what's happening at the brand. They're also featuring product tie-ins, which is really easy to do in your newsletter. So again, it's just one additional touch point where you're getting into someone's inbox every week with a shopping call to action that's just lightly in the background behind content that they actually want to read. And then we have Desoy, so non-alcoholic aperitifs, where I believe this is their founder, Steph, is just sharing 48 hours in New York City with Steph. What's in her bag? So these aren't even products that they sell, but if she is an influencer or someone that their subscribers care about, then this is genuinely interesting to them as to what she's up to. Next type of campaign is cultural event campaigns. So each month you're going to want to identify important cultural dates, such as major holidays that you can connect to your brand. The more naturally it connects, the better. Examples can include Mother's Day, Father's Day, Black Friday, and you're going to want to use resources like a cultural events calendar for additional inspiration. So Klaviyo actually just put out a great campaign calendar. If you Google Klaviyo campaign calendar, this one right here, the 2025 marketing calendar, is something that you can definitely peek at each month, and it'll let you know, okay, in January we have National Cut Your Energy Day. If that's something that applies to your brand that you can tie in, you can send a campaign around that. So this is a super powerful resource. It doesn't have to be this marketing calendar, but this is a good one if you're in ecom and use Klaviyo. And then you're simply just going to want to send campaigns that tie into what's going on. So this is from Absolute, the vodka brand. And this was a campaign for Mother's Day where they're saying serve one up for the mom who's selfless, and then a CTA to shop for that event. And then another one from Rebel Rabbit, Survive the Holiday Hustle. They're simply just tailoring their content to the time of year, which is just going to resonate extremely well for their demo. Okay, now let's talk about promotion planning for your email campaigns. So for each promotion you have, you're going to want to determine how many emails are necessary to effectively communicate the offer. Now, there are 4 types of standalone promotional email campaigns that you absolutely should send for basically any promo that's longer than 24 hours. So if you're doing a 24-hour flash sale, maybe you just need one campaign. But if you're running a sale that's longer than a few days, you're going to want to incorporate all of these 4 emails to maximize the amount of revenue that you're generating. So before we get into these, just a quick definition. A standalone email is going to focus solely on one specific message rather than being a small part of a larger email. So here are the 4 types. The first one is a promotion teaser. So in our teaser, you're going to want to announce your upcoming sale 1 to 2 days before it starts to build excitement and encourage early engagement. And you're going to want to have a call to action to drive non-SMS subscribers to sign up for early access. So this is a really high leverage strategy that you should implement for your brand this year, which is to use SMS as a channel for early access. And in that, what you're going to do is for anyone that is actively subscribed to email, that in your pop-up is subscribing to email but not SMS, you're going to have a touch point later on in order to drive them to SMS with something that's valuable to them. If they want early access, that benefits them and it benefits you to have their phone number. And if you're wondering, well, if I already have their email address, why do I need their phone number? The reason why is SMS is super, super powerful when you're running promotions or you have a new product launch and you want to make sure that you can take advantage of that 100% open rate and get into someone's inbox. You're going to want to have every subscriber's ideally email address and phone number. So we can see here, Olipop, their teaser is saying kind of a big deal. Ding, ding, ding. You got early access to our colorful Black Friday sale. And in order to get the early access, text to sign up is their CTA. Now, the next email is the actual launch of the promotion. So you're going to want to announce the sale as it begins, typically scheduled at the exact time it starts or early following morning. So let's say it starts at midnight. You might want to send that email the following morning, and you're gonna want to focus on the content that is selling the click to direct users to the promotion page. So what we've learned after hundreds of A/B tests doing this is you don't want to announce a promotion and then start educating on why your products are so great and why people should buy your products in that same email. If anything, you can do that in a teaser email where you are pointing to a call to action to sign up for SMS, but also teasing at why someone is going to want to buy these products. But in the promotion launch, we just want to sell the click. At this point, your subscribers should already be warmed up and wanting to purchase. The good news is if you have a strong campaign calendar in place, that work is being done all year to get them primed for when your products go on sale and they can purchase. So our goal here is really to have a really simple call to action to just get them to the site. So that's what I mean when I say we want to sell the click and not the purchase. Selling the purchase should be done in all of our campaigns that lead up to the launch of a promotion. So next up, we have our promotion last chance campaign. This is absolutely something that you want to do. You want to send an email on the morning of the promotion's last day to create urgency. So for anyone who hasn't purchased by the last day of the promotion, you want to let them know that it's ending soon. This is their last chance. You can use countdown timers. This works really well. Or you can use plain text reminders to highlight the limited nature of the offer. Plain text emails work extremely well here too. And this is simply an email that looks like it's coming from a coworker or a friend. It usually works best when it's sent from the founder of the brand. And it's just 2 sentences that says, hey, just letting you know the promotion's ending soon with a shop now hyperlinked CTA. Now onto promotion reminders. So really these are the 3 standalone emails that you should be sending. And then the 4th is whenever, let's say you have a extended promotion where it's lasting 30 days, let's say it's a month-long promo, you're going to want to include banners or modules in all the other emails throughout that month to remind your subscribers about the ongoing sale. A lot of brands kind of just get stuck into this routine of like letting subscribers know that there's a sale and then not mentioning it for the next few weeks and then saying like last chance to shop the sale. And it just doesn't make sense really, because if you are sending good content throughout the month, why not also reinforce the fact that people can shop this ongoing promotion throughout the month alongside your calls to action to shop in your evergreen content? So with that, depending on the type of sale it is, if it really is a major sale, like let's say it's a Black Friday sale where it's going on for a month and clearly like we want to push more sale messaging, you can send standalone emails every 1 to 3 days with reminders, product recommendations, and content that's addressing customer hesitations. So in that launch email, we absolutely don't want to do any selling, but in those promotional reminders, if you want to send a campaign that's just reminding someone of the promo, you can definitely include social proof like reviews there. You can include product recommendations that they should shop with their discount. So this is a good place to do that. Now, moving on into planning for a product launch. So if you're launching a new product, these are the emails that you want to send. You want to send a new product launch announcement. So you want to send at least one on the morning of the launch to generate excitement and direct subscribers to learn more or to purchase. And you're going to want to focus on clear, concise messaging that highlights the product's benefits. Now, you can apply a similar strategy here with SMS, where you can tease the upcoming product launch and push email subscribers to SMS to sign up for early access for that launch, and also potentially tease the benefits of that product that is being released. But when it comes to the new product launch announcement, this is what you're going to want to do here. And then the other thing that I see brands do all too often is they'll release a exciting new product and they'll just send one email and kind of just go on with regularly scheduled programming and not talk about it again. Now, this is a huge miss, because number one, your emails do not have 100% open rates. So if you spent all of this time and energy building out a new product, sending one email where only maybe 40-50% of your subscribers are going to see it is just kind of a waste. It's not giving it its full love and attention that it deserves. So for that alone, you want to send additional emails about this. But the next thing is, each time you release a new product, there's probably 3 to 4 bullet points in terms of the benefits that that product has. And instead of like stuffing them all in one email and calling it a day and assuming that everyone knows everything about this new product, you can send 3 to 4 follow-up emails where each email just goes deep on that one benefit of those 3. So 3 emails, 3 benefits, and you're now getting 3 more chances to convert that subscriber on that new product. And what's also great about this is you never know which benefit is really going to speak to that subscriber and convert them. So having that chance to just go really zero in on that one benefit can absolutely drive incremental conversions for you. Now we're on to segmentation. So which lists or segments should you be sending to? When it comes to segmentation, you have 3 goals. So number 1, you want to get the right message to the right people. So the right people are the ones that want to receive emails from you. You want to keep your deliverability healthy, and then you want to develop insights about your key customer segments. These should be your 3 goals in terms of which segments you're creating, which segments you're sending to. So there's 2 things that you should not overcomplicate at all when it comes to segmentation. Number 1, at its core, all keeping your deliverability healthy is sending emails to the people that want to receive emails from you. And I'll go a little deeper on deliverability later on, but if you do that, you're 99% in the clear. So that's the first thing that's really important to understand about your segments and why you should be sending to people that want to receive emails from you. Now, who are those people specifically? That we'll get into in a second. But the other thing I want to talk about here is why you should not overcomplicate your segmentation strategy. So I look at brands and Klaviyo accounts all the time that are sending to 50 different segments. They're creating campaigns like specifically for one-time purchasers who purchased this specific product in the last 3 weeks. And it's just way too granular and it's costing them a ton of money. And it's one of the easiest ways that we can come in and immediately increase their revenue by like 50%. And that is broadening up their segments. So what you don't want to overcomplicate is the way to generate the most revenue possible from your email marketing segments is to operate with the stated goal of generating the most clicks possible. If we just break down the math, the way that you are going to generate the most revenue possible is by getting the most people to your site to purchase. If people are not coming to your site, it's impossible that they buy. The only way someone can buy is if they come to your site. So you need to get them to your website. And when we look at those 3 pillars of how you can grow your ecom business, it's site traffic, it's AOV, it's conversion rate. So we are going to increase the traffic that has come to your site from your email list. And you're going to do this by sending to your broadest possible segments that will keep your deliverability healthy. And if that doesn't sound extremely clear, don't worry because I will get into it. Okay, this is extremely important. You do not want to create campaigns for a small segment of your subscriber base unless you have significant resources to spend creating more emails than you need to. You do not know when someone will be in market for your products, so you want as many shots on goal as possible. So some people think that this would be spammy, but this simply is not true if the content you're sending is not spammy and is adding value to your subscribers. So if your content is spammy, then yes, you are going to spam people. But if it's not, then you're in the clear. The reason why this is highlighted in yellow is because, like I said, the easiest thing you can do to generate more revenue is send to more people who want to hear from you. If you have the resources to create 3 emails per week and one of those emails is being created for a segment of 200 people that bought a specific product within the last 3 months to cross-sell them another product, you're missing out on one of those 3 weekly sends going to the, let's just say 20,000 people in your engaged segment that could be receiving that email. So what's the likelihood that you're going to drive more revenue from that segment of 200 people who purchased X product in the last 3 months than the 20,000 if your campaign is essentially the same? Like if you are sending to that segment of 200 because you're explaining why you need X product because you bought Y product, that exact content can be sent to your broader engaged segments to just explain why X product makes such a great addition when you have Y product. And I guarantee that is going to generate way more revenue by sending that content to that segment. If there's 3 things that you walk away from this video understanding and implementing, this should be one of them. Now let's look at the key segments that are applicable to all brands. So the first segment, yes, every brand thinks that they're extremely unique and extremely special and should be creating content for 100 different segments. Fact of the matter is, it's just not the best way to generate revenue. It's costing you money if you're doing that. You really only need 2 types of segments, and you need those 2 types of segments to accomplish these 3 goals. Get the right message to the right people, keep your deliverability healthy, and develop insights about your key customer segments. Your key customer segments, this applies to 99% of brands, are going to be your prospects and your leads that have never purchased and your existing one-time purchase customers. The reason this says one-time purchase customers is because if you have a subscription brand where customers are signing up for a recurring subscription, then you would need to have that 3rd segment as well for subscription customers. So you would break out one-time purchase and brand subscription to understand what's engaging and converting these different segments. The reason why we have these two core segments is because ultimately there is no other way to break up your entire database into 2 or 3 segments in a way that will allow you to target with personalized messaging your content and your campaigns based on those 2 or 3 specific data points. So the data point that we want to break this out by is, has someone purchased before or have they not? And if someone has never purchased before, they are a fundamentally different subscriber than someone who has purchased before. They know a lot less about your brand. They trust your brand less. There's a lot that is different between those two groups. Now, in your existing customers, yeah, you can then sub-segment between people who bought this category, people who bought that category. But for 99% of brands, that is overkill until maybe you're past $50 million in revenue. And using this system is going to allow you to generate extremely meaningful insights that will allow you to generate more first-time purchases from your prospects and leads and more repeat purchases from your existing customers. So those are the two types of segments that we have. So within these two groups, we're going to want to create segments for subscribers that are engaged in the last 90 days, 180 days, or 365 days. And we're going to do this in order to help protect our deliverability so that we are only sending to the subscribers that want to hear from us. And I'll expand on that in a second. So let's go over to Klaviyo and let's actually set up these segments just so I can show you exactly how we're going to want to do this. So I'm going to click Create Segment. I'm going to name this Prospects Engaged in last 90 days. And what we're going to say here is someone can receive email marketing, and what someone has done, placed order 0 times because they're a prospect over all time. And as soon as someone does place an order, they're going to fall out of this segment. But for now, just going to have everyone who's never placed an order over all time. So this is our and conditions where we're saying this is non-negotiable. They have to, both of these properties, they need to be able to receive email marketing. We have consent to send to them legally, and they've placed an order 0 times over all time. Now we're going to go into our engagement criteria. We're going to want to send to our 90-day engage segment or our evergreen campaigns, which I'll talk more to in a second. But here we're going to go into what someone has done. And we want to base this off of anyone who's opened an email at least once in the last 90 days, where Apple Mail, we actually don't have this in this account because it's a test account, but I'll show you exactly what that's going to look like here. So what you're going to want to filter for is anyone who's opened an email in the last 190 days where Apple Privacy Open is false. And the reason why is because post iOS 15, Apple basically goes into anyone who uses Apple Mail's inbox and preemptively opens all emails to check for spam before someone actually opens it. So Klaviyo has a way to determine if it was an Apple Privacy Open or not. Most brands, I'd say 99% of brands that I audit do not do this. And essentially what it leads to is them sending to people that are not actually engaged, because you're going to see in your own Klaviyo account, when you put this filter in, there's going to be a lot fewer people that are actually opening your emails than you think there are if you're just sending to an engaged segment without this filter in place. The next thing we're going to do after we put that filter in, so we're going to say or, because we want to know if someone has opened an email or clicked an email or the other type of engagement criteria that we have. So we're going to say or person clicked an email at least once in the last 90 days. And here, I'm not going to get this as well, I don't think. So I'll just show you over here. What we want to have here is we want to filter on clicked email to say bot click is false, just because there's a lot of bot click activity that goes on. And we don't want to consider someone engaged if they haven't opened a single email and the only activity they had was a bot clicking a link in the email. So we're going to want to do that. And then we're going to say, or what someone has done. And we're going to say active on site in the last 14 days. This is typically how we set it. It depends on how much site traffic you're getting. So this is different for every brand, but 14 days is safe, because essentially what we want to do here is we want to send to people who want to receive emails from us. And if someone has not opened or clicked an email in the last 90 days and we've been sending 3 emails a week, they've made it very clear that they don't want to receive or they don't want to open or engage with our emails a lot. But if they have just been active on site, they are now much more likely to engage in emails, because now they're probably back in market or they saw an ad ad that rekindled their interest in the brand. So we want to make sure that we are also hitting them in our campaigns so that we can retarget them effectively, because otherwise, if we were just looking at email engagement, they would be missed and we might lose out on that conversion that would be driven from that campaign. And the last thing that we want to add here is we want to add one more or condition where we're going to say or has subscribed to list at least once in the last 14 days. So if someone subscribed to your email list through a pop-up form, you should have a optimized email welcome series in place here that they should have opened or clicked, in which case they would be in here anyways. But because they just showed interest, similar to being active on site in the last 14 days, if they haven't engaged in the welcome series yet, because they've just gone 1 or 2 emails, we'll still want to send them our campaigns as well if they're valuable to them. So that's how we're going to create our prospect segment. And then essentially what you're going to do is once you have this segment created, you're going to click create segment. You just want to clone that segment for the different time horizons. So we're going to say 90 day, 180 day, and then 365. And when you clone it, you're going to change the name to be 180. And then you're just going to change the email time ranges. So you're not going to change the active on site or the subscribe to list. You're just going to change the opened or clicked. And then you're going to do the exact same thing for the 365 days. Once all of that's done, you're going to then create your existing customer segments. And all you're going to do here, once you have your 3 segments created, you can clone each one, change the name, and then you can just change placed order 0 times over all time to placed order at least once over all time. And that's going to define all of your existing customers that are engaged in these timeframes. And that's essentially it in terms of the core segments that you need to create. So if you're using any other segments, I would love to have a debate on why you think those are necessary, but this absolutely covers all of the basics and more in terms of proper optimized segmentation that's going to help you drive a lot more revenue. So if this all sounds great, but also sounds a little overwhelming, I'm going to offer you guys something that I have never offered to anyone, and it's going to be completely free. What I'm going to offer you is a custom GPT that has been built and trained on all of our strategies as it pertains to campaigns. So how to build a campaign calendar, what to put into campaigns, the top performing structure for campaigns, the top A/B tests to run on campaigns. So this has been trained on our internal frameworks that I just showed you, plus more that I didn't even get into, that have generated over $30 million in campaign revenue for e-commerce brands like yours. So you're going to go into the Dispatch Strategist Campaigns GPT, which you're going to find at the link in the description of this video. And you're going to be able to ask it anything as it relates to campaigns. So let's say your brand is Nike, although it can use any brand on the website. You can feed it your website. You can feed it your brand guidelines. You can feed it anything you want. Let's say it's Nike, for example. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask for a campaign calendar for the brand Nike for March of 2025. So now this is going to act like your personal strategist, where it's going to ask you the key questions that we just went over to identify what the brand goals are and the business goals in order to put together a campaign calendar that's going to generate more revenue. That's going to help your brand achieve its goals. So we can see we have the request for the campaign calendar for March 2025 for Nike. Here's a link to the Nike official site. And the overview that it's giving us is it's asking, what are Nike's key business objectives? So that's what it's going to ask you about your brand. Are there any significant product launches, restocks, announcements, similar to how our expert strategist would review this with you? Are there any seasonal events or holidays to account for, like March Madness, spring break, anything that you would want to connect with specifically? Are there any promotions that are happening? Are there any specific content themes that are already planned for your other channels or general marketing calendar? It's giving you some ideas here. Should any educational content be promoted, like styling tips, training guides? So it's already tailoring it to Nike based off the website, and you can tailor this as much as you'd like based on the questions that it's going to ask you. And once you answer all these questions, so there is some work to do, but like all things in life, to get the best results, you have to put some work in. So as soon as you answer all of these questions, it is going to spit out a campaign calendar that is completely optimized to drive conversions for your brand based on these millions of dollars in revenue that we've driven for our partners. So this is based on hundreds of A/B tests that we've run. This is based on tens of millions of dollars in revenue. And this is is going to be a perfect calendar for your brand. So let's just say, for the sake of the example, because I don't want to answer all these questions right now, let's just say I say, forget these questions, just give me a calendar for March. This is what it's going to spit out after you give it all of the information that's going to tailor it to your brand. So it's going to tell you in week 1, which is March 1 to 7, this is the suggested first email. So it's going to be a spring refresh email. The content is going to be to highlight new spring collections for Nike, bright colors, lightweight performance gear with a CTA to shop the spring collection, member exclusive drop. Obviously we didn't give it any specific information, so it's just going off of what it's trained on, but it is going to incorporate product showcases, collection showcases, anything related to cultural events that are happening. So you can see it's tying into March Madness. It has relevant CTAs that tie in shopping to the content that you want to put in. So it's basically just going through everything we just went through in this campaign calendar portion, but it's going to be completely custom to your brand, and it's 100% free. So again, this is 100% free. The link is in the description. Go get the GPT and create the best campaign calendar that your brand has ever created. Okay, now back to the video. All right, so now that you have created your core segments in Klaviyo, let's talk about choosing the right time horizons for your campaigns. So when should you send to your 90-day engaged segments? When should you send to 180-day? When should you send to 365? Now, the goal is we want to optimize for over 50% open rates on our evergreen campaigns. So our evergreen campaigns are non-promotional or non-new product launch campaigns. And these are the campaigns that we're going to be sending 2 to 3 times a week in general. On those campaigns, we want to see over 50% open rates. It does depend on your deliverability, obviously. So if you're not starting from a great place, that might be adjusted, but this is our general guideline. Some other loose guidelines: we don't want to send to segments that are broader than 180 days for our evergreen campaigns. The way that we look at it typically is, if someone hasn't opened 40 emails from you in the last 6 months, are they going to open this 41st email, which is just about a product benefit, let's say? And really the cost benefit analysis is just asking the question of, is it worth hurting your deliverability, or the really, really slim chance that they open this campaign that is not going to be super appealing to them because clearly they're not engaged with the brand at this point in time. Next up, broader time horizons may be appropriate for promotions and product launches. So definitely when we're looking at someone who hasn't engaged in the last 6 months, if they buy once or twice a year from your brand, do they want to hear about this big promotion? And the answer in that scenario is probably yes. So that's when we would want to go to those people who haven't engaged in the last 6 months, but have engaged in the last year, let's say. And then finally, time horizon decisions should be based on deliverability health and type of campaign. So that's what we're going to look into right now. So looking into our different campaign types and which time horizon we're going to want to choose in terms of our segments for those campaigns. When it comes to evergreen campaigns, which again are not a promotion, not a new product launch, not a major announcement, just an regular evergreen campaign, the time horizon is going to be between 30 and 180 days. So like I mentioned before, we want to send to the broadest segments we can in order to get the most clicks to the website while keeping our deliverability healthy. The way you want to do that is basically you're going to want to figure out what is the broadest range between 30 and 180 days for us to maintain over 50% open rates on these evergreen campaigns. So if you are a relatively new brand and your list is still overwhelmingly pretty engaged, that's probably going to look closer to 180 days for you. If your deliverability is really, really poor, that is when didn't even see this 30-day segment when we were creating our core segments before, because we're pretending like most brands have good deliverability. So if you don't have good deliverability and your 90-day engaged segment, you're seeing under 50% open rates, that's when we would suggest you going lower to 60 days or 30 days until you find that sweet spot where you're seeing over 50% open rates. And the goal is essentially, as you're building up your sender reputation, you're improving your deliverability, then you can slowly start broadening those segments and trying that 90-day engaged again until you get back to the point of seeing 50% open rates here. When it comes to standard promotions, so like not Black Friday, let's just say your welcome offer is 10% off and you're running a promo, a flash sale for 15% off for a day, that would be considered a standard promotion. If your evergreen campaigns are being sent to 180-day segments, basically you want to broaden it so you can go up to 365 days at that point. If on the other hand, your evergreen campaigns are being sent to a 30-day segment because your deliverability is in bad shape, then you would want to expand to, let's say, 90 days. You wouldn't want to just go blast the 365-day segment. So you basically just want to broaden it up compared to where you are are at the evergreen level. Then when it comes to significant promotion, so let's say Black Friday, really big site-wide sales that you're having, anything that is going to be really interesting to someone who's not generally engaged with your brand, but is still on your list. The way you should just look at this is someone hasn't unsubscribed, they still want to be on your list, but they're just not interested in what's going on a week-to-week basis. They're there for the really big events. That would be a significant promotion event. And here is where you would still, depending on your deliverability, want to hang between this 180 and 365 day plus range. So we hardly want to go above 365 days, just because if someone hasn't engaged in a single year and you've already gone through your cycles of Black Friday, of all of the other big events that you have, and they haven't opened anything, they should be sunset at this point. We'll get to what sunsetting is in a second, but really there's no reason to go broader than 365. New product launches. So again, here is a big event. Someone is not interested in what's happening on a weekly basis, but the last time they bought a product from you, this new product wasn't around and they might be interested in this. So that's where we definitely want to go broader to try and get that engagement from this otherwise lapsed audience. Some key notes: we never want to send to your brand's entire list, ever. The risk reward in this scenario is so not in your favor that there's really just no reason to do it. It's going to harm your deliverability. We only want to be sending to engaged segments. Simple as that. The second key note here, really important, you don't want to be sending to unnecessarily small segments. So let's say you're sending to your 90-day engaged segment for your evergreen campaigns and you're seeing a 70% open rate, let's say. If you can go broader to that 180 days and see a 55% open rate, you would be sending to an unnecessarily small segment because your deliverability can handle sending to more recipients and getting you more clicks, but you're not doing that. Now, everything in this section is focused on email, but the same exact principles apply to your SMS campaigns as well, though your cadence should be much lower. So if you're sending 2 to 3 campaigns a week on the email side, you probably want to be sending 1 to 4 SMS campaigns per month, depending on how many SMS worthy messages you have to share. So you can't look at SMS as the same channel, same type of channel as email. It really is more reserved. And if you start spamming people with a ton of SMS messages, you're going to see extremely high unsubscribe rates, first of all, and it's just not going to accomplish what you want to accomplish, which is see your list growing and have the ability to generate significant revenue from that list. So our goal when it comes to SMS and your list in particular is growing your list consistently. So keeping those unsubscribe rates really low and only sending out campaigns and messages when you have something really important to say. So you can think of it as like that 90-day engaged subscriber who is generally engaged and like generally interested in the brand and what's going on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis. They're not opening every single email. So if you have something that like they would be really interested in seeing and you want to make sure that they see it, that's what you should use SMS for. So SMS works extremely well for your promotions or new product launches, but you don't want to mix in too much evergreen content and campaigns in there. You should still be keeping a consistent cadence. It's still really important for SMS. You don't want to go 3 months without sending an SMS because the next time those subscribers hear from you, they're going to forget why they subscribed in the first place and they're likely going to unsubscribe. Compared to if you keep a consistent cadence, you're setting the tone, setting the expectation of how much they're going to be hearing from you, and you're going to see lower unsubscribe rates and higher engagement. And lastly here, you want to reserve your full SMS list sends for when you have something really important or valuable to share, like a major promo. So you should still go with an engaged segment for SMS, and that can look very similar to our engaged email segments. You'll just want to use the clicked SMS metric instead of the opened or clicked email. But compared to email, where you never want to be sending to your full list, you can send to your full list a few times a year when you have something really important to say. And the last thing to note about SMS is there are costs involved that are a lot more significant than email. So whereas email is 1 cent per email, SMS, especially if you're using MMS, can go up to 4 or 5 cents, I believe. And you want to be more careful with when you are blasting out those sends that can rack up to hundreds of dollars. Klaviyo does work on a tiered pricing model, so they're not charging you per send exactly, but the tier that you're at will depend on how much you're sending. So you want to make sure that it is an ROI positive channel when it comes to campaigns. And that's the other reason why you don't want to constantly be sending for evergreen campaigns where conversion is less likely, and why you don't want to be sending to unnecessarily large segments that you're paying more for. All right, next up, we're getting into the fun part, which is email creative. This is really, really important. It's one of the few things I really want you to walk away from this video with, which is what you're saying matters far more than how you say it. And this applies to pop-up forms in terms of that offer that's there. And this absolutely applies to email creative as well. So if you're going to overthink something, it should be what campaigns you're sending and what content to include in your campaigns, but not the copy and design. Because ultimately what's going to get someone to open, click, and purchase is not going to be the color that you're using. It's going to be the actual content of the message that's in there. So this is where so many brands get stuck, unfortunately. They think that they need to be sending out these perfect campaigns. And what so often happens is they don't send campaigns at all because of course, they have a business to run and they don't have the time to make sure that every word is exactly perfect as they would want it and that every color is perfect as they would want it. So they either don't send the campaigns at all or they don't send as consistently as they should. So the reason that brands think that this is important is because they believe that their subscribers are actually paying attention to these really, really small details. And for the most part, the truth is they're not. So your subscribers open your emails to get something of value. So whether it's a promotion, a blog post, or a new product, that's what they're looking for when they open your emails. They're not analyzing every word in the email or every image choice that you made. So with that out of the way, because it's extremely important, what is important when it comes to email creative? Because email creative is still important and there's a few elements that you absolutely want to get right. So after years of A/B testing and optimizing creative, what I've learned is that the most important thing to focus on to elevate your click-through rates and your conversion rates will be achieved by simply not doing the wrong things rather than doing the perfect things. So we want to eliminate all bad behavior here. At our agency, we have a 29-point design requirement checklist and a 15-point copy requirements checklist for every email that gets sent and created for our clients. But with that said, these are the ones that you absolutely need to know. So we've condensed this down to a more digestible and easier to remember list of just the most important things. So I'm going to head over to Figma now, and we're going to take a look at one of the emails that we've sent recently for one of our clients and exactly how each point here relates to that email. Over here, we have an example of an email that we recently sent for one of our clients, Lions Leather. And I want to take you through our design checklist, or at least the most important design tips, which we put together for you, as well as our most important copy tips. And we can just see exactly how this relates to this email as an example. So the first thing when it comes to the design of our emails is you want to make sure that your email has a scannable layout. And what that means is you want to use ample white space to make the content easy to scan so that someone opening the email and quickly scrolling through it can easily and clearly and quickly understand each main messaging point in the email, meaning new module headers should be clear. So essentially what we're saying here is a lot of people who open emails today are not reading the entire email. All they're doing is they're scanning it. And I'm sure that you can recognize this own behavior in yourself probably, where you are opening an email and you're just seeing, okay, like what is this email talking about? And I'm either interested in it or I'm not, but I just want to get to it really quick. So when we say that we want to have a scannable email in place or scannable layout in place, we want to provide that ability to someone opening the email. So in this email, as an example, we can see as soon as someone opens the email, what they're going to see is if they order by December 16, they're going to get it by Christmas. The email is clearly about the perfect neutral, which is their espresso collection. You have your CTA to shop espresso. And then if someone's scrolling down this email, they're going to see, find the perfect one for you. So I can see, okay, they're comparing the different size bags and what they can fit. And then it also makes the perfect gift. And that essentially for someone scrolling through, those are the only 3 things that they're probably taking out of this, or only 4 things that they can order by December 16 to get for Christmas. It's the perfect neutral. And we're talking about this collection. Here's how they comp. And then this product makes a good gift. That someone scanning through is going to take away from this. And this is really important because they have now gotten everything that we want them to get in terms of messaging communications out of this email. So compared to other emails that don't have scannable layouts, where you might just have one header and then like everything else is just mixed in and there's no easy way to scan and understand the whole concept of the email and everything that's going on there super easily. The next thing is our top performing content hierarchy. So content hierarchy makes a really big difference. Everything here is done on purpose, and there's a reason why the perfect neutral is found in the header of the first module instead of in the body copy. So the top performing hierarchy is to arrange the content in the order of a header, a subheader, which you have here. Then you can have body copy if it's necessary. And then you'll want an image and then a CTA for a clear flow. So in this context, we want the CTA really high above the fold. So this is a little interchangeable in terms of the CTA and the image placement, but that is the general top performing content hierarchy that we want. And that does definitely translate into all modules that you see here. You have a header, you have kind of the sub header for the categories going on here. You have some images, and then you have CTA, you have a header, you have your subheader / body copy, image, CTA. So this is the hierarchy that performs best after hundreds of A/B tests that we've run. You can actually think of every module as kind of like a micro funnel, where the top of your funnel is bringing someone in to the concept, which is that this is the perfect neutral, the espresso collection. Then you're giving them a bit more information in the middle of the funnel, our top pick that blends with dark and light outfits. And then at the bottom of your funnel, you have your CTA to go shop. And that's how the structure works. So the next thing that's really important is you want to have your call to action button above the fold. This means that someone should be able to view a call to action without having to scroll into the email. So if someone opens their email and this is all they're seeing at the top, they should have that button that they can click right away instead of having to scroll down, where they might be interested in shopping espresso based on this information and this image at the top, but they have to scroll down to find the call to action button. And again, people have short attention spans and they're more scanners than they are readers. So we want to just make that extremely easy for them. This is one of the biggest things you can do to increase your click-through rate. And ultimately, the more people you're getting to your website, the more conversions you're going to drive, which is why this is so important. Next up, you want to have a call to action in every module. So what you don't want to do is have one call to action button at the top of your email and then present the rest of your content without any more calls to action. In every module, and a module is just defined as a new section where we're talking about something else, you need to have a call to action button. When there is a promo present, you want to make the offer and the code extremely clear above the fold with a CTA above the fold to shop. So this example doesn't have a promo inside of it, but if there was a 10% off sale going on, we would want to make sure that we're communicating that there is a 10% off sale with the code to shop right here in this section above the fold. We don't want to say holiday sale going on, body copy, images, and then below offer the code and the call to action to shop. Email length, you want to keep emails concise to maintain reader interest and prevent information overload. So you don't want to include too much information in your emails. And anytime you can make something a visual diagram similar to what you see here versus paragraph form, that is definitely going to help maintain subscriber engagement and increase click-through. Next thing, this is pretty simple, but brand guideline adherence. So design must strictly follow brand guidelines for cohesive brand experience across the brand's marketing funnel. One of the most important things in terms of design is just that your customer experience is cohesive from a design perspective. So I see a lot of brands that will invest a lot in either their ad creative or their website. They have a beautiful website, and then their emails just do not look like it's even coming from the same brand because there's no investment in good design. And that is really what matters. Someone should understand really clearly that I'm getting an email from this brand and this email just feels like an extension of their website almost. Because one of the quickest ways to lose trust in a shopper and lose that potential customer is by not having that cohesive experience where it just looks like this brand does not have their stuff together. They don't know what they're doing. It looks like I'm getting emails from a different brand than the website I was on, and you are definitely going to lose them that way. Next, when it comes to design, is contrast for readability. So you want to use high contrast between text and background to enhance the readability of your text. You'll see here, we have a clean white background and then dark text on top of it, dark button with white or off-white copy inside of it. You don't want to have copy and text that all blends into the background and makes it hard to read. And then finally, appropriate font size. So most shoppers are on mobile these days. Most people read their email on mobile, they shop on mobile, they do almost everything on mobile compared to desktop. But brands that design emails within Klaviyo kind of have this bias where they're designing it on their desktop. And so they're trying to make it look great on their desktop and they ignore what it's going to look like on mobile. So in order to have strong font sizes, you should be designing all of your emails in Figma in order to get the highest quality design. And if you are designing in Figma, the simple framework that you can follow is just using a frame size that is 1200 pixels in width. The height will vary just because it depends on how many modules you have. And then for fonts, you can have your headers be 100 pixels, subheaders be 75 pixels, your body copy be 50 pixels, and your CTAs be 60 pixels. You can obviously adjust this as you want, but this will make sure that your copy is legible on mobile and desktop for sure. So now if we go over to the copy side of things, when it comes to copy, it's all about your audience. Like if we just ignore this entire list, the most important thing that you need to be doing is speaking to your customer in their language and about the things that they care about. It's not about you. This is the biggest mistake that I see brands make, which is they talk about themselves too much. And they do this in their ads, they do this on their website, they do this in their email, but especially in email marketing, if you want to engage someone and get them to click and buy, you need to speak to their pain points. It's about them. This is how our product is improving your life in some capacity. So you want to tailor all of your copy to the target segment. So what this also means is that if you are sending a campaign that's only going to prospects or only going to existing customers or only going to subscription customers, you should speak to them based on what you know about them. So if they are a prospect and that's who you're sending the campaign to, using calls to action like try now or using other verbs that clearly indicate that they are a prospect, that is what you want to do. Next up, clarity and conciseness. People are busy. They are scanners. They're not really readers. So ensure the message clear and concise, avoid run-on sentences and complex vocabulary, make content as concise as possible, ensuring every word is necessary. We don't want unnecessary copy here. Again, you want to speak to customers and subscribers in their language. If you have something complicated that you're trying to explain, simplify it and explain it to them in simple terms. Messaging hierarchy. This is similar to what we just talked about in terms of the header, subheader, body, copy, CTA, formatting, consistent tone of voice. This is kind of in line with following brand guidelines. You want to make sure that your tone of voice is very consistent across your funnel so that from your ads to your website to your emails, it feels like the same voice is talking to that customer. And that is really important to maintain that subscriber and customer trust that's eventually going to lead to that conversion. And then engaging language, use everyday language, avoiding industry jargon, complex words, keep the tone conversational, casual, friendly. You want a strong call to action in each module. So we talked about that on the design side of things, but when you're writing the copy, this is really where it starts. An effective subject line. So you want to keep your subject line short and clear, under 40 characters, avoid spam words and excessive punctuation as that can land you in spam. You want to use effective strategies such as urgency, valuable offers. If you're sending an email for a promotion, you 100% want to put that offer in your subject line or at the very least your preview text, but it should be in your subject line. So if it's 20% off, you should say 20% off in your subject line. And then effective preview text, ensure the preview text complements the subject line and entices the recipient to open the email. And finally, you just want to proofread and do a complete grammar check to make sure you're not sending out an email that has any typos from your brand. And we can see the subject line preview text for this email. Subject line was your perfect neutral, the espresso collection, and the preview text was goes with everything, goes with you everywhere. Next up, we're getting into automated flows. 90% of the revenue that your brand will drive is going to come from 7 core flows. That's just the truth of the matter. You should not spend any time or resources building out additional flows until these 7 are optimized. The simplest way to explain this is you're going to generate more revenue from raising your welcome series conversion rate from 10% to 12%, for example, than you will from adding a brand new flow outside of these 7. And yes, there are for sure exceptions to this. There's some brands where an additional flow might be really important for them. So if that's you, focus on that flow. But for the most part, for 99% of brands, if you get these 7 right, 90% of your revenue is going to come from them. So I put this table together for you to screenshot and just have as a reminder to take away from this, but I'm going to go into a little more detail down below on each of these 7 core flows. What I'll touch on here is the triggers and filters that we want to have in place. So in Klaviyo, you're going to go over to flows, and I'm just going to explain what I mean when I say triggers and filters so that it's crystal clear as I'm going through this. When we click on build your own, if we're starting from scratch, let's say we're starting with our welcome series. Our welcome series is going to be triggered by someone subscribing to a list. So like we talked about when we were putting our pop-up form together, we chose a list that was called newsletter for everyone signing up through the pop-up form to go into. And now in order for them to go into the welcome series is going to be triggered by them going into this list. So I'm going to click create flow over here. And now we're going to have all of our options to select a trigger for the flow. Like I said, for our welcome series, it's going to be added to list. And let's go ahead and choose newsletter over here. So before I click save over here, this is where we have our profile filters, which are the filters that you're going to see over here. Now, our welcome series, which is also known as our nurture series, is going to want to remove anyone who has placed an order after coming into the flow. So essentially what that means is we are using this flow to nurture new subscribers, and we don't want them to continue going down the flow and continue being nurtured after they've already purchased. So this is what most brands will be set with, and this is going to be placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So we're going to go ahead and click save over here, confirm and save. So this is where you will go in and actually build out your flow and put your emails in and your time delays and everything else. What's important to understand about the flow filters is just that Klaviyo is checking these filters before any email or SMS gets sent out. So what that means is when we're saying they've placed orders 0 times since starting this flow, before this email gets sent, Klaviyo is going to check that filter. If we put a time delay here and we set this to 1 day, and then we have another email that goes out on day number 2, they're going to check this again before sending this email to make sure that whoever is queued up to receive it has not placed an order since they came into the flow, which means if someone got email number 1 and then purchased, they're not going to get email number 2. So that is the triggers setup, and that is the filters setup. So our welcome series has the subscribed to list or added to list trigger, and the filters are placed orders 0 times since starting this flow. Our goal is to convert new subscribers into customers by introducing the brand, building trust, and driving purchases. And what you want to include is your welcome offer that you promised them in the pop-up form, your brand USPs, your brand story and mission. You want to highlight your best sellers, showcase your social proof, and then have an us versus them email in it. So I'm going to be creating another video that is 100% dedicated to building out optimized flows. And in there, we're going to go into a ton of detail on exactly how to build all of your flows out. So this is really here for you to screenshot and put in your back pocket in case you want to start getting set up before you watch that video. All right, so our next core flow is our abandoned checkout flow. The trigger of the flow is checkout started. So exactly like we had here, we would create a new flow and we would just change the trigger to checkout started. So you can see that over here. This is going to be called our checkout started flow. Create the flow, and then the triggers right here. So it's coming from Shopify. And then the filters that we're going to go ahead and put in are going to be placed orders 0 times since starting this flow. So similar to the welcome series, if someone starts a checkout and then they place their order, we don't want to send them an abandoned checkout email. So we would do the same thing here and say placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So that's the checkout started trigger and filters, and the goal is to recover lost sales from checkout drop-offs. Now I'm going to go into a lot more detail about the strategy behind our abandoned checkout flow in a minute, but essentially you want to remind people of their cart contents. You want to have the dynamic product details of the items that were in their cart. So the product images, the names of the products, the prices. You want to do some objection handling, which we're going to talk about. You want to have social proof, and you want to have a call to action to complete their purchase. Next up, we have our abandoned cart flow, which is going to be triggered by the added to cart metric. And then here's what's important to understand about your filters. When it comes to your abandonment flows, you always want to filter out any actions that someone took later in the funnel. So what that means is when someone adds to cart, but they don't start a checkout, we only want them to get our abandoned cart flow if they didn't start a checkout, because otherwise if they did start a checkout, they're going to get the abandoned checkout flow, and we don't want them to get both of these flows. So in our filters for our abandoned cart flow, we're going to say checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and they placed an order 0 times since starting this flow. So both of those two events that happen later in the funnel, we're going to recover lost sales from cart drop-offs by doing this. And then we're going to have the exact same elements as we have in our abandoned checkout flow, because really it's a really similar place in the funnel. So what we want to cover is basically the same thing. In our browse abandonment flow, the trigger is going to be someone who views a product on your website. They're looking at a product page, and then all of the metrics that come upstream in the funnel, they've added to cart 0 times since starting this flow, checkout started 0 times since starting this flow, and placed orders 0 times since starting flow. There should be an and here for both of these. The goal here is re-engage window shoppers by providing personalized recommendations and trust building content. We're going to want to have a reminder of the viewed product that they were looking at, the details of that product to remind them of them, other product recommendations, which you can do with a Klaviyo dynamic product feed based on what other people bought and what other people were looking at. Here's other products that those people liked. You're going to want to show the benefits of the viewed product and your brand USPs. So just highlight if you have free shipping, we have free shipping. If you have anything else that's really specific to your brand as a USP, you'll want to highlight that. And then you'll want to highlight your social proof as well. Post-purchase is triggered by the placed order metric. So when a placed order event comes in from Shopify, that's triggering the post-purchase flow. And what you want to filter out, we want to say that someone has canceled an order 0 times since starting this flow and refunded an order 0 times since starting this flow, just to make sure that if someone did cancel or request a refund, we're not still sending them those post-purchase emails. And the goal is to foster loyalty and encourage repeat purchases by thanking customers and cross-selling relevant products. So ultimately what you want to do is have a thank you message, show product usage tips, and then cross-sell or upsell related products. In our customer win-back flow, it's also going to be triggered by our placed order metric. So as soon as someone places an order, they're going to get put into this flow. There's going to be a long time delay, which is going to be based on a few factors, which I'll go into in my video about creating all of these flows. The filter is going to be placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So essentially what we're targeting is someone who placed an order, but didn't place another order. And we want to win back these customers. And you're going to want to have a strong offer, reminders of last purchase. You're going to want to showcase new products or collections, and you're going to want to build urgency with limited time deals to win these customers back. Finally, you have your sunset flow. The trigger is going to be when someone gets added to a segment that you're going to create, which I'll go into in that flows video. Ultimately, the segment is going to be anyone who's unengaged in the last 180 days. They're going to go into this segment. And this is our last chance to try and re-engage these subscribers before we determine that they're completely lapsed. And we're essentially going to sunset them, suppress their profile, and save on our Klaviyo bill and protect our deliverability and our list health. So they get added to the segment, and the filters are opened emails 0 times since starting the flow and clicked emails 0 times since starting this flow. So what you're going to want to have here is a re-engagement offer to just try and get them to open and click an email and show that they're still wanting to be engaged. You're going to want to showcase new arrivals that they might not have seen if they haven't opened an email in 6 months, and then ask for updated preferences or feedback. So essentially we're giving someone a chance to say, like, I only want to hear about big promotions. I don't want to hear about all these campaigns. So like I said, in my upcoming flows video, I'm going to go into all of the nitty gritty details that come with building out all of these flows, both on the strategy side and on the actual technical implementation side. For now, because your welcome series and your abandonment flows are going to be driving so much of your revenue, I really want to touch on high level strategy and exactly how you should be thinking about these flows in order to generate a ton of revenue. So the reason why I want to take some time to talk about this high level strategy for these flows is because 95% of the brands that I audit and the brands that I get welcome emails and abandonment emails from have absolutely no idea what they're doing in terms of the content that they're sending to actually get someone to convert. 9 times out of 10, they're using Klaviyo's default setup, which basically tells you to send your new subscribers an offer and then remind them of that offer and basically send them some product and remind them of the product. And it doesn't actually do the job. So when you implement a proper welcome series and proper abandonment flows and proper post-purchase flows, you are going to see upwards of 100% increases in the revenue that you're generating because of these strategies. So let's talk about your welcome series. A welcome series flow is the first point of contact between your brand and a new email subscriber. Once a subscriber visitor opts in to your email and SMS list through the website pop-up, the welcome series introduces the lead to your brand and your products. That's its goal. So these are the most important elements that you need for an extremely high converting welcome series. Number one, each email must only focus on one core message. And by core message, I also mean conversion angle and call to action. So what does this really mean? Most of the time, what I see when I sign up for a brand's email list is they're trying to tell me everything about the brand in the first email. They're saying, here's your code for 10% off. They're saying, here's our best sellers. Here's the story about how we founded the brand. Here is our quiz that you should take to figure out which product you need. Here's where you should follow us on social media. They're telling me to do 20 things. And one of the most important quotes that was brought upon me at one time is, if you ask someone to do 10 things, they're most likely to do none. So this is where focused messaging is so important, both in your campaigns, but especially in your welcome series, where you're trying to nurture a new subscriber. So number two, each brand has several core messages and angles that can be used to convert a subscriber into a customer. Examples of this are your brand story, your best sellers, an us versus them angle, social proof, and more. And these must all be communicated with one focused email each, not blended into one email. So you need to have one email that's telling your brand story, one email that's focused on your best sellers, one email that's showing all the social proof that you have, from reviews to influencer posts to everything. And the reason why this is so important, other than you're giving people one message and one call to action at a time, is you never know what the conversion angle is going to be that ends up driving that first conversion from a lead and a prospect. So for some shoppers, they need that social proof. They need those reviews in front of them. For some people, they need to hear your brand story. That's what's going to be what converts them. And if you shove them all in the same email, people are not reading through all 10 of those sections. But if you send one dedicated email, they have no choice. Even from the time they see the subject line, they're getting that information. And that is where you're giving yourself more shots on goal to convert that subscriber. So one thing I want to touch on here kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is that brands look at email as this siloed channel that lives separately from their other channels. And a good example of this is that brands put a ton of time and energy into creating amazing websites that have all of the information that a new website visitor could ever need to convince them to buy. So you go to a brand's website, on all their PDPs, they have all of the unique selling points, they have reviews, they have everything that can get someone to buy. But where they fail is operating under the assumption that website visitors are actually taking the time to read through all of this information, and that they're even finding all of these sections below the fold and on different pages on the website. That is the misunderstanding, and that is why they neglect to tell that story and share those same conversion angles and elements in email. An easy way to understand this, and just to prove my point, if you don't believe me, would be to download an app like Hotjar and watch your website session recordings from site visitors. What you're going to notice that over 80% of traffic you send to product pages or landing pages from your ads bounce without even scrolling. So all of the great info below the fold never gets seen. So this means that new email subscribers still have all of the questions that you believe should have been answered. And our job across our flows is to operate under the assumption that a new subscriber saw no information on your website outside of product pages and prices, and pinpoint what information they would need in order to take the action that we want them to take to get to the next point in the customer lifecycle. As I've said, I'm going to be doing another email where I'm going way deeper into flows, but your welcome series should have a minimum of 7 emails, and your ultimate goal is for a new subscriber who knows nothing about the brand to receive all of the information that should convince them why you are the only brand in your market that they should consider buying from. If you can do this properly and have these minimum 7 emails that are just speaking to why your brand is the best brand in your market, you are going to be so far ahead of your competitors, you have no idea. And you will see this reflected in the conversion data and the incremental revenue that you will see driven from your welcome series.
I'm going to drop a link in the description where you can get access to the exact welcome series strategy checklist that we use at Dispatch for our 7 and 8 figure brand clients. So the strategy has been refined over the past 2 years through hundreds of A/B tests, and I guarantee that it will outperform what you currently have set up in your Klaviyo account. This document will give you explicit instructions on what to include in each email in your welcome series in the exact order for you to generate the maximum amount of revenue. Plus, it also has examples of how other brands have implemented the checklist, so you can easily reference what the email should look like.
So onto our abandoned checkout flow now. The abandoned checkout flow is a series series of emails sent to shoppers who started the checkout process but didn't complete it. These are shoppers that not only added to cart, but actually clicked the checkout button on your brand site and also may have started entering their shipping and billing info. Some of these shoppers may be new to your brand, while others may be returning customers exploring new items or thinking about repurchasing products they've already tried. This is one of the most important and highest ROI flows you can build for your store because these shoppers were so close to converting and they just need that final push to get them to convert. Now, an optimized abandoned checkout flow reduces abandoned cart rate and increases your brand's website conversion rate, can increase your brand's average order value through recommending other products and using incentives, and gets potential customers to make their first purchase faster. The amount of time it takes someone to go from being aware of the brand to becoming a customer. And it gets potential customers to make their first purchase faster. Here are the fundamental questions you need to ask yourself when you're building out an abandoned checkout flow for your brand. These are the questions that 95% of brands do not ask themselves, and how they end up with abandoned checkout flows that basically just say, hey, did you forget something? And a call to action to go complete your checkout. If you do these things right, you will have a higher conversion rate than those 95% of brands. So the first question is this: in the context of your brand, why might a site visitor add something to their cart but not complete their purchase? Pretty simple, but no one is asking this question. Everyone assumes that someone just got distracted. That's how people build their abandoned checkout and abandoned cart flows. They say, did you forget something? Did you get distracted? Here is a link to go back to complete your purchase. No one is asking the question of why someone may have taken the act of adding something to their cart and not completed the purchase. So what I want you to do is, this is your homework. I want you to go through your website shopping experience, and as you go from product page to cart to checkout, identify what information is present at each step and where the drop-offs might be occurring. If everything was free, your website would have a 100% conversion rate. I promise you there would be almost no one not completing their checkout. So when you look at it that way, it is a value question. Everything comes down to value and having to prove why someone should spend their hard-earned money on your products. So let's look at some potential answers to that question of why someone might add something to the cart, start a checkout, and not complete it. First off, we have price sensitivity. So the customer might have found that the total cost, when you include shipping and taxes, which they see at checkout, was higher than they expected. Next up, you can have comparison shopping. So they might be comparing products or prices with other websites. Distraction, which is what most brands speak to. The customer could have simply gone distracted or interrupted during the checkout process and just didn't complete it. It could have been a complex checkout process. So a complicated or a lengthy checkout process might have led to frustration. Account creation requirement. So some brands make you create an account on their site to complete a purchase. I don't understand why they really do that. It would make me bounce and not convert. Lack of immediate need or urgency. The customer was not convinced of the immediate need for the product. And then potentially technical issues. Are there website glitches or loading issues that happen during checkout? That's another reason why maybe they might not have converted. When you're going through some of these potential answers or others, the next thing that you need to do is ask yourself the following question, which is, what information did they have at the moment they got to checkout that would have increased the odds of them completing their purchase? And here are some of the potential answers based on the answers to the previous question. So as you're going through your website and you're identifying some of the answers to this first question, I want you to start thinking of this next question and the potential answers here, which is, what information did they not have at the moment they got to checkout that would have increased the odds of them completing their purchase? So if everything comes down to value at the end of the day and they decided that they didn't value the product enough at that moment to complete their purchase, what information could have potentially convinced them that it was a good value and it would have been a good purchase to make? So some of the potential answers here are detailed product information. Potentially a lack of sufficient details about the product's features, benefits, or usage is what made them not believe it had the value they wanted. Shipping and delivery details, so uncertainty about shipping costs, delivery times, or return policies. Price justification, insufficient information to understand the value or justify the cost of the product. Security reassurances, concerns about the security of their payment and personal information. Customer reviews and testimonials. So a lot of people, in order to justify the value, need social proof. They need to see reviews. They need to see trust badges. They need to see things that reinforce that this is a good decision from the words of others and not from a brand itself. So if you have a lack of social proof or user experiences that affirm the product's quality and effectiveness, that could have been a reason. Any promotional offers or discounts. So if they were unaware of any available discounts that they might have had at checkout, any loyalty points, any special offers, that could have stopped them from checking out. Imagine someone signs up to your email list, they get your welcome code for 10% off, and then 3 months go by, they come back to the website, they're at checkout, they're debating, and they don't end up buying, and they've completely forgotten about the fact that they had that 10% off extended to them, and they didn't buy it because they thought it was too expensive, but that 10% could have helped them and they just didn't know about it. Next up, we have product comparisons. So the inability to compare this product effectively with alternatives, which kind of goes back to missing information. And then potentially customer support access. So lack of immediate access to customer support for queries or concerns. So if we go back and think of the average brand and the emails they send when someone abandons a checkout, you can clearly see that they're not trying to answer any of these questions in their emails. A lot of these things can be communicated via email. Unfortunately, you can't step in and talk to a customer when they're at your checkout, but the next best thing is communicating these things proactively in your abandoned checkout and abandoned cart emails. So I'm going to go into way deeper detail in my next video that's focused completely on building out your flows. But for now, your abandoned checkout flow should be a minimum of 3 emails and should be branched between prospects and returning customers by using a Klaviyo conditional split where placed order over all time equals 0. So essentially, if the answer to that in the conditional split is yes, that's where your prospects are going to go. And if the answer is no, meaning they're a returning customer, that's where your returning customers are going to go. So there's 2 main reasons why you really want to branch your abandonment flows between prospects and existing customers. The first one is that prospects have a welcome offer that was extended to them, and we want to make sure we remind them of that so that they can save on their first order, because that is going to be a big objection value. So how can we combat that? Remind them of the offer that they have. The next reason is that potential purchasers who have never tried your product have completely different objections to placing their order compared to an existing customer who has already tried your product, understands the benefits that it offers, and has different objections into repurchasing that need to be handled separately. All right, next up, we have our abandoned cart flow. And it's important to understand the difference between an abandoned cart flow and an abandoned checkout flow. In your e-commerce store's funnel, a website visitor will typically first add products to their cart, and then they're going to proceed to the checkout process. There are 2 separate metrics to represent these different actions in Klaviyo. There's an added to cart metric and a checkout started metric. Klaviyo's default abandoned cart flow template is triggered by a checkout started metric, not a added to cart metric. So if you're just following Klaviyo's default templates, which we can see here, and you are clicking on prevent lost sales and abandon cart reminder, what you're going to see here is when you click abandon cart, the trigger that it's using is the checkout started trigger. It's not the added to cart trigger. And what that means is that only people who start a checkout are going to get your abandoned cart emails in that flow. No one who actually adds to cart but doesn't start a checkout will get any abandoned cart emails, which is why it's super important that you set this flow up separately. In terms of the content of the flows, in most cases, we can consider that someone is at a very similar point in the funnel when they add something to their cart and when they click the checkout button. Their objections are almost always the same because there's limited information that they're finding out at the checkout stage compared to the cart stage. But if there is new information for your store specifically that is presented at checkout as you're going through your funnel, where you realize that there could be some objections that occur because of something they see in their cart or something that they see at checkout, then you would want to tailor the messaging in these flows based on what that objection might be. In general though, you can create your abandoned cart flow by cloning your abandoned checkout flow and then updating the flow trigger. So it would look something like this. We could clone our abandoned checkout flow and we can change checkout to cart. And then simply what we would have to do is change checkout started. So I don't have the metric on this test account, but on other accounts, it would be added to cart. And then you would simply click clone flow. And then what you would have to do is, just because the properties from the checkout started metric are what's taking people back to their link dynamically to complete their checkout, you would just need to change the URLs. That is going to be in another video. I'll teach you exactly how to do that. And you'd also have to change the dynamic variables that display in the cart content, as well as the flow filters, just because we looked at it before and you need to update the filters to make sure that everyone who's supposed to be getting the emails is getting them. Next up, we have our browse abandonment flow. I'm going to go into a lot more detail about this in our video on flows, but at a high level, browse abandonment flow is a series of emails sent to shoppers who viewed specific product pages but left the website without adding anything to their cart. What we're going to want to include here is separate separate branches for prospects and existing customers. You're going to want to target these window shoppers with a reminder of the products they were looking at, use recommendations to move them down the funnel, answer high-level FAQs about your brand, and then you want to have a minimum of 2 emails for each branch. So 2 emails for prospects, 2 emails for existing customers. So your post-purchase flow is another really important flow. It's an automated email sequence designed to engage customers after they make a purchase. This flow is tailored to educate, nurture, and build loyalty, ensuring customers have a great experience with their purchase and feel motivated to return for future purchases. The flow should be branched to differentiate between first-time purchasers and repeat purchasers, allowing for more personalized communication. The goal of your post-purchase flow is to maximize customer retention and repeat purchases by creating a seamless and personalized customer experience. So here's what you're going to want to include in your post-purchase flow. For first-time purchasers, what we want to make sure we do is we want to enhance the customer experience with helpful information. We want to make sure that their first purchase goes smoothly and that they get the maximum value out of the products that they've ordered so that they come back and buy more from you. At the end of the day, if their experience with your product isn't great, there's very little that email or SMS is going to do to get them to buy again. So that's why we want to be really proactive here and make sure we get them all the info they need to get the value out of their purchase. And we're going to do that by giving them product usage tips, shipping updates where necessary, and potentially product care instructions to enhance the quality of their product over time. Next up, we want to build trust and loyalty by reinforcing the brand's values and the brand's mission. We want to encourage a second purchase by recommending complementary products or collections. And we want to reduce buyers' remorse and foster confidence in their purchase decision. These are our goals for first-time purchasers, and I'm going to go into way more detail here in the video on flows. For repeat purchasers, we want to strengthen brand loyalty by acknowledging their continued support. We want to encourage higher value purchases through tailored recommendations based on their purchase history, and we want to introduce exclusive perks or VIP offers to make them feel valued. And just to reiterate, by branching the flow between first-time and repeat purchasers, brands can deliver more relevant content that aligns with each customer's journey, resulting in stronger retention, higher engagement, and increased revenue compared to if you just have one standard post-purchase flow where everyone's getting the exact same emails. The length of this flow depends on your brand and really how much product education is required in order to get the most value out of their purchase. So next up, we have our customer win-back flow, which is a series of emails for lapsed customers, which are customers who are at risk of being lost because they haven't made a purchase in a while since their last purchase. So some of these customers may have simply forgotten about your brand, but others may have either not liked the product, and even others may just not have browsed to find other products that they like because they don't know what other new products you have to offer. So what we want to include in our customer win-back flow is an exclusive offer. So there should always be a unique and strong offer to win back customers at the point when we feel they're going to lapse. And in my video on flows, we're going to talk about exactly where that point is and how to figure out what that time delay should be after someone's first purchase in order to understand when we need to trigger this flow. But we definitely want an offer in there. Now, in terms of targeted audience segmentation, we're going to want to distinguish between first-time purchasers and repeat customers. This distinction allows us to tailor the messaging and offers more effectively, addressing the unique needs and expectations of each group. So first-time purchasers should receive a more generous offer to get them to come back, because once we can develop the consumer behavior, the purchase behavior of buying from your brand multiple times and get them over the hump of just becoming a one-hit wonder, as we call it, we're going to have a really significant advantage in retaining them as a customer long-term. In all of your flow emails, you're going to want to make sure to emphasize value over price. We want to make sure to recognize that the primary barrier to repeat purchases is often the perceived value of the price. So if someone bought once and maybe they have enjoyed the product, but they didn't feel that it was worth the cost. And our job is to develop a strategy that emphasizes and highlights the product's benefits and value over competitors. Because the fact of the matter is, a lot of the times when your customers are not coming back, it's simply because they're going to a competitor, often a cheaper alternative. And we need to do our job to justify why your product is unique, why your product is different, and remind them of the benefits that they very likely receive from your product, which they're not getting from the competition. So finally, we have our sunset flow, flow. And our sunset flow is not going to be a revenue generating flow directly. It will generate revenue indirectly by keeping our deliverability strong and our list healthy. But the sunset flow is going to be used to re-engage inactive subscribers and determine if they still want to be on our list. We're not going to take it personally if they don't want to be on our list, but we just need to know. This flow is really crucial in keeping our list healthy, because what we're going to do at the end of the flow, once we can identify that someone is completely lapsed, no longer engaged, is we're going to suppress their profiles. So what you want to include in your sunset flow is engaging subject lines and CTAs. We want to make sure that we are catching their attention in their inbox with subject lines like "we miss you" or "is this goodbye?" And we want to encourage subscribers to confirm their interest with clear and easy to follow CTAs. So this means we might want to have an email that literally says, "Do you still want to be on our list? Click this button if yes." We want to have exclusive offers or content. So we want to offer a discount or free resource as an incentive to re-engage these inactive subscribers and see if they still care about the brand at all. And we want to have a last chance email where we're just clearly communicating that this is the last email we're ever going to send them and that they need to show us that they still want to be on our list if they click this button. When it comes to actually cleaning your list, I'll talk about that more in our sunset flow part of our flows video. Ultimately, what we want to do is just remove these unresponsive subscribers who don't engage at the end of the sunset flow or by the end of the sunset flow. We want to do this so that we ensure that our list remains healthy and completely focused on active subscribers who want to be hearing from us. So I want to pay special attention to those 7 core flows because, like I said, they're going to be a game changer in the amount of revenue you're able to generate, and they're representing around 90% of most brands' revenue. But other strong flows to set up once you do have the basics optimized are going to be at the pre-purchase level, your window shopper flow or a red hot flow. Essentially, your window shopper flow is going to target anyone who's shown window shopping behavior more than a browse abandonment flow. So our window shopper flow is going to target window shoppers who we've identified as coming to the site 3 to 4 times in the span of, let's say, 1 to 2 weeks. And we know that they are really interested. They have really high intent, but they need something to get them over the hump. So if they have been to the site a few times and they haven't started a cart, started a checkout, we're going to send them a really serendipitous discount, like a 20% off 24-hour flash sale, where we have 2 emails in there. So one, as soon as we identify that they've just been back to the site, and a second one that comes 21 hours later saying that there's just 3 hours left to claim this offer. So they feel that it's so serendipitous because, oh my God, I've been to the site 3 times. How I was just contemplating this. It's the perfect time to have an offer in place. And we know that they need that offer to convert. So this can drive a ton of revenue for you as well. A price drop notification flow, pretty straightforward. When your prices drop, instead of having to send a campaign every single time, you can have a template set up where subscribers are automatically notified that a product that they were browsing or that they added to cart has had a price drop. Same exact thing with the low inventory flow. If someone added an item to cart and it's low in inventory, which Klaviyo knows based on its integration with Shopify, then they will get an automated notification letting them know that's low stock. Same thing with back in stock. Back in stock flow is a little trickier because you do need to set up a button on your website that's integrated with Klaviyo that essentially says, remind me when this is back in stock. So a website visitor will click on this button, they'll put in their email address, and they'll get queued up in this flow so that when Shopify does update your inventory and Klaviyo knows that this is back in stock, it will send an email dynamically to anyone who filled out that form. Now, getting into the post-purchase side of the customer journey, there's a few additional flows that are super helpful to have. So the flow that we covered is the post-purchase flow, which is triggered when someone places their order. But you can also have an order fulfilled flow in place, which means as soon as the order is shipped, we're giving them up-to-date information on the fact that it's shipped. And we can actually use that as a trigger to send better timed emails based on what we want them to know and what we want them to read right before they get their product delivered. And then similarly, we have our order delivered flow, which is going to be triggered as soon as Shopify updates the delivery status. And this can be used in a similar fashion in order to communicate exactly what we want to communicate when the order has been delivered. Instead of having to kind of guess the timing that they're going to receive their order based on putting it into a post-purchase flow, that's just triggered on that placed order metric. So then we have our review request flow. This will either work through using Klaviyo reviews. This will work through an integration like Okendo or similar, where we will dynamically request a review after a certain time frame for anyone who hasn't already given one. And this will really help you in building up your bank of reviews that will serve as social proof, not only on the website, but then to be used in email and your other channels as well. Then we also have a replenishment reminder flow. So if you are in the CPG space, like food and bev or beauty or anything that is replenishable in nature, you absolutely want to have a replenishment reminder flow, as this is huge in the ability to generate incremental revenue from people who otherwise would not replenish. And then finally, we have our customer engagement and loyalty section here. So if you do have a loyalty program set up, you're going to want to have a loyalty points updating flow so that every time someone places an order, or based on other triggers that might make sense, you would want to remind customers dynamically of the amount of points that they have. You can set up a birthday flow to really connect with your customers in a one-to-one personalized way where you're offering them special offer, discount promo for their birthday. And then you can have a first purchase anniversary flow, which is essentially going to operate a similar way to the birthday flow, but it's triggered 1 year after they place their first order to thank them for being a customer, for being loyal, and give them an offer to come back. Now, let's talk quickly at a high level about adding SMS to your flows. So I'm gonna go into way more detail about this in my flows video, but for now at a high level, here's what you should understand. The only flow that you want to have as a separate unique flow in Klaviyo is your welcome series. So the rest of your flows, you're going to want to integrate SMS into your flows, but your welcome series, for compliance reasons and a few other reasons, you're going to want to have as its own flow. So what that means is you're going to build out a welcome series similar to what we did for email. We'll call this SMS welcome series. And then what we're going to do here is we go to all triggers and we go to metric. We're going to choose subscribe to SMS marketing as our trigger. The reason why we're choosing subscribe to SMS marketing instead of subscribed to list is because there is a double opt-in process that's required for compliance on the SMS side of things. And we only want someone to get put into a flow when they complete the double opt-in process. So they can get added to the list, technically, our SMS subscribers list, but they're not actually going to go into a flow, which is what we want, until they complete double opt-in. So this is the trigger that's going to be used to trigger your SMS flow. And you're going to build out your welcome series similar to how you would build it out on email, which we'll get into in our flows video, but definitely want to highlight the importance of building this out separately. For your other flows that are going to be integrated, what you're going to do is you're going to essentially put in a conditional split where it makes sense, where you want to send an SMS before an email is sent. And you're going to want to check to see if someone is consented to receive SMS. So in our abandoned checkout flow, as an example, what I'm building out right now is we have our first abandoned cart email where we're talking about applicable savings reminder. So let's say we're reminding a prospect about the checkout that they started that we want them to complete and their 10% off welcome offer. What we would want to do here as an example is we could set the conditional split to say if someone can or cannot receive SMS marketing, and we can hit save. And what we can do here is we can flip this to make it easy to understand. If someone can receive SMS marketing, we can send them an SMS right here to remind them of their checkout. If they can't receive SMS marketing, they're going to get the email at our desired initial time delay, which let's say is 55 minutes. And here's the kicker. So because in our flow filters, in our abandoned checkout flow, we have a flow filter in place that says someone has placed an order 0 times since starting this flow. We want to add in a time delay here. And let's say this is 4 hours. Because we know that SMS has a close to 100% open rate and people are checking their phones pretty often, if someone receives this SMS and doesn't purchase, we still want to send them an email. So some people, even if they're subscribed to SMS, are going to be more likely to convert from an email because maybe they're at their desktop and that's where they're seeing it compared to an SMS. And a mistake I see a lot of brands make is they just put this conditional split at the beginning of their abandonment flow, as an example, or they'll build out a completely separate abandonment flow. And everyone who's subscribed to SMS is only going to get SMS messages. They're not going to get emails. This is a mistake because having a second touch point is extremely helpful. So what we're going to do here is we set the time delay. And now what we can do is rejoin this over here. And I'm just going to refresh the page because I think this kind of breaks Klaviyo when we do this. Now we can clearly see if someone has placed at least one order over all time, they go down the yes branch. If they have SMS, they're going to receive the first SMS. And if they can receive SMS, they're going to go down the yes branch and receive the first abandoned checkout SMS. And then if they don't convert 4 hours later, they're then going to receive the email versus the people that don't have SMS, which are simply going to receive the email right away after the 55-minute time delay. So this is how you want to start incorporating SMS into your flows. SMS works extremely well and has extremely high ROI in your welcome flows and in your abandonment flows. So browse abandonment, abandoned cart, abandoned checkout, you want to build SMS in the same capacity out in those flows. And then post purchase, it really depends on how important the educational aspect around adoption of the product is for your brand. If it is extremely important and you know that customers seeing this information and these messages can be the difference between them getting value out of the product or not, then absolutely it would be information that you would want to work into an SMS message for sure. If not though, like I said before, as it pertains to SMS campaigns, you do want to treat SMS as a quieter channel and only message what's extremely important. I'll leave it up to you to decide how you want to incorporate SMS for your brand, but this is what is really important in terms of the ability to generate incremental revenue based on those email and SMS subscribers. All right, on to our last topic that we're going to cover, which is deliverability. I touched on deliverability at several points throughout this video, but it's probably helpful to give you a summary and some more information to make it easy to digest because of how important deliverability is. Ultimately, if you can't land in a subscriber's inbox, you definitely cannot get them to open your email and you can't get them to click and you can't get them to convert. So it's objectively the one thing that you have to get right. So let's start off with some really important things to understand about deliverability in 2025. Number one, we have to understand Gmail and Yahoo's sending requirements. So a large percentage of your email list is going to be on Gmail or Yahoo, and Google and Yahoo are cracking down on senders that are using their email domains in the from address. So essentially, if your brand currently is sending from a Gmail address, you definitely do not want to be doing that. You'll need to switch to a branded sending domain that you own to avoid getting flagged as spam. So basically, if your brand currently is sending from support@gmail.com, you would have to start sending from support@yourbrand.com. Next up, similarly, you want to set up a branded sending domain. So branded sending domains give you better control over your sender reputation and improve your branding in the inbox. So this is now a requirement for bulk senders that are emailing Google and Yahoo customers. And bulk sender just means anyone who's sending more than 5,000 emails in a 24-hour period. So if you have a brand and you're watching this, that's likely you, which means you need to get this set up. The next thing you're going to want to do is implement DMARC authentication. DMARC is a protocol that verifies your emails are coming from a legitimate source. You'll need to set this up in your DNS provider in order to stay compliant. It's not as complicated as it sounds. If you Google it, you will see. Next up, we want to make sure that you are keeping your spam complaint rates low. This is super, super important. If anyone's marking your emails as spam, you're going to run into deliverability issues with all providers. Basically, what you want to do is monitor your spam complaints. Now, if you followed everything in this video from segmentation to campaign cadence to campaign content and it being valuable, you're not going to run into spam complaints from your campaigns at a problematic level. On the flow side, it's really important that you set up your flows with the proper triggers and filters in place so that you're not over sending to people. And I'll get into that in another video. But for now, you will be in good shape if you follow the outlined processes in this video. But outside of that, what you absolutely should be doing is using the deliverability hub in Klaviyo or Google Postmaster tools to just stay on top of this and make sure that your spam complaint rates are low. Next, you're going to want to avoid spammy subject lines. So I touched on this when we were going over subject lines, but it's really important. You want to steer clear of all caps, excessive punctuation, and overly promotional, like really excessively promotional language, because that will be flagged as spam by the inbox providers. And lastly, something that can help is getting personal. So this is a good thing to do in 2025 in general, but the more your emails feel tailored to the individual, the less likely they are to end up in spam from the inbox providers. So you want to leverage your customer data to make your messages feel custom made. And you're going to do that by using their first name. You're going to do that by letting them know what products they were looking at. at specifically. And you can even do that by incorporating zero-party data, which I'm going to be talking about in an upcoming video, in order to really leverage the data that you have on your subscribers to drive serious personalization. So how should you actually be monitoring your deliverability? You want to keep an eye on your deliverability score in Klaviyo in the deliverability hub. So if we go back to Klaviyo and we click on deliverability, you're going to see your deliverability score over here. It's unavailable here because this is a test account, but you will have a score here if you've sent 1,000 emails in the last 30 days. Klaviyo gives you specific actions that you should take, such as setting up a never engage segment. You don't have to do that if you're handling segmentation the way we explained, but you do want to set up your branded sending domain like we just talked about. You're going to want to set up a sunset flow. So it'll give you different actions that you can take, and then it will show you exactly on your campaign performance side, on the flow side, exactly where your problematic data is. And on the report side, it will give you a report of bounces, of spam complaint rates, of unsubscribe rates, and let you know exactly where things are becoming problematic so that you can make adjustments when needed. So the metrics you're going to want to keep an eye out for are those spam complaints, bounces, specifically hard bounces. Klaviyo specifically has a bounce details tab where you can see the hard bounces and soft bounces, which are usually displayed right here. You're gonna want to keep an eye on unsubscribes, open rates, and click rates. But again, if you're doing everything that we've talked about in this video, you should be all set on the open rate and click rate side of things. And then in terms of addressing deliverability issues when you do find them, the moment you realize that you have a deliverability problem, you need to begin sending to tighter engaged segments and put together a plan for slowly broadening them up again when that time comes. So as an example, we talked about sending to 90 day, 180 day, 365 day. If you're really in a tight spot, what you're going to have to do is put together a deliverability improvement plan, which can look as severe really as sending to 14 day or even 7 day engaged segments a few weeks just to get that sender reputation back up. It's really like a credit score in the sense that you need to prove to the inbox providers like Gmail and Yahoo that you are a sender that is trustworthy. You're not someone that's sending spam. So if for some reason they put you in that spam box, the way to get out of that is to get your credit score, your sender reputation up. And the way you do that is by having extremely high engagement. So that's why we want to send to our extremely engaged segments so that we can slowly get back in Google, Yahoo, Apple's good graces. The good news is that keeping your deliverability healthy is not really another task that you need to worry about, because if you've been doing everything that we've talked about in this video, the result of doing those things in terms of campaign sending and flows is going to result in your deliverability staying healthy on an ongoing basis. And that is literally everything you need to know around email and SMS marketing. But if you really want to learn deep strategies that the top e-commerce brands are using and you're serious about scaling, this video that you can click on your screen right now was made for you. I go over some things in there that could really take your brand to the next level. So click that video if you want to grow your brand, and I'll see you in the next one.